Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Fanfiction podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. Today, we're diving into a brand new story, Becoming a Member of the Strongest Familia Part 2 by CA1 Piggy. Before we jump in, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Surprise, inside the training facility, Bell was awoken by the fighting outside. The screams appeared to be from the guards, so the attackers must not be weak. He quickly woke up Ween and told her to be quiet. They then went to an upstairs location with a good view on the stairs. Soon, about 8 intruders stormed into the facility. As he watched their search, he tried to figure out who the leader was. As he watched, white particles were gathering around Bell. When the intruders finished searching downstairs and headed up the stairs, Bell launched a 3-minute charge Argonaut firebolt at the likely leader in the group. The firebolt explosion was enormous, blowing a huge hole in the building. As the dust cleared, the stairs were destroyed and several intruders were lying on the ground. The ones that were still upright ran for their lives. Even though the enemy seemed to have left, Bell did not dare move from their high ground. As he waited, he kept ready while Ween fell back asleep. About 15 minutes later, Freya and Otter entered the building. Bell was so relieved to see them. Freya smiled, "Little one, the damage is going to take a while to fix." Bell bowed. "Goddess, I am sorry." Freya smiled. "I was teasing you. It is good that your cannon did the damage you did." Otter, "Ich lost Familia. I think they transport goods." Otter, "They are all dead. This one's name is Gran, a level 4. I think he is their second in command." Leaving Bell visibly shook that he killed several people. Freya noticed Bell's emotions. "Little one, you had to protect yourself and Ween. You had no choice," and added a small kiss on the cheek to make Bell feel better, but Ween was jealous. After feeling a little better, "Bell, what about the guards outside?" "Otter, we have others taking care of them. They were injured but will recover," making Bell feel a bit more relieved. Freya, "Little one, we have no choice. We need to take Ween to Folkvanga for now." "Bell, but what if others find out?" "Freya, we will worry about that later. I am not going to leave you or other children exposed in this remote location. I believe Eiklos Familia has multiple level 4 and a level 5 inch." Thus Bell carried the sleeping Ween back with Freya and Otter. They put her in a remote room, and Bell stayed with her all night. The room door was blocked from the inside and the outside so Ween would not mistakenly get outside. Otter also posted guards at the two ends of the hallway, with the guards told to stop anyone who enters except for Bell, Freya, and Otter. The next morning, Freya and Otter checked on Bell and Ween. Bell had something to tell Freya. "Bell, goddess, I am sorry I troubled you for my own feelings. I now understand that Ween must return to the dungeon," making Ween cry. Freya, "Bell, that is fine. I will contact Urano's Otter with the Nossos operation upcoming. We must return from the dungeon as soon as possible." Freya, "I will go to the guild to make the arrangements." Bell nodded. "I will go tell AIS that I cannot go to training today or tomorrow." Later in the morning, Freya and Otter returned to the Folkvanga after going to the guild. Bell was already there after having told AIS and the twins that he needed to attend to the damage at their training facility. Freya, "Little one, you, Welf, Lily and Haraheim will take Ween to the dungeon at midnight. Otter will be going with you. I got a Hades hat for Ween to wear, but you must tie her to one of you so we do not lose her by mistake." With everyone staying at the Folkvanga until the mission, Otter and Bell sparred for a few hours, with Freya giving Bell many embarrassing lap pillows. After training, Freya gave Bell a final update. Level 4 strength, 138 endurance, 129 agility, 150 dexterity, 116 magic, 163 skill, Argonaut, Ox-Slayer magic, Firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance, escape, that night. After the update, everyone took a long nap to save energy for the late night mission. At midnight, Bell and his group went to the dungeon, but they were not aware that a couple spies were following them from a long distance away. Ween was invisible with the Hades hat, but the spies immediately realized they were up to something going to the dungeon at midnight. Being a burden, Bell, Otter and their group brought the invisible Ween into the dungeon. With Bell as the vanguard and Otter protecting Ween and Haraheim, they quickly reached the mid-levels. At that point, Otter became the vanguard to save time with Bell protecting Ween and Haraheim. Thus, they reached the 18th floor in less than 4 hours. After a short break on the 18th floor, they headed for the 20th floor following a map from Fells. There were a lot of monsters today, but level 2 monsters had no chance against Otter, even a large horde of them. They soon reached the location on the map, which was on a far-off secluded location on the floor. Hearing some singing, they found a hidden passageway. Following the passageway, they found a room with a spring. Still following the singing and noise, they found a large cavern. Suddenly, they were attacked by many monsters. None of the monsters had a chance against Otter, and soon they learned to stay away from Otter. However, a tough red lizard man attacked Bell, who was shielding Haroheim and the invisible Ween. With all the attacks, the Hades hat fell off. At that point, the monsters seemed to focus on attacking Bell and the now visible Ween. Trying to protect Ween, Bell used a 3-second charge punch that slammed the lizard man against the wall. Looking at the lizard man flatten on the wall, the monsters all laughed and started to talk in human language. They thanked Bell for protecting Ween, and were genuinely surprised to see such action by a human. They shook Bell's hand, but all were scared of Otter because they realized how incredibly strong he was. The lizard man introduced himself as LYD, and the harpy was introduced as Ray. However, Gross the gargoyle was not so friendly. The Xenos threw a party for the Freya members and Ween, despite it being the early morning hours. After the feast, it was time to return to the surface due to the Knossos situation. Ween was very sad and clung to Haroheim and Bell. However, the Xenos told Ween that it is not safe for her in the surface world, and she also would be a huge burden to Bell and the Freya Familia. Deciding to protect Bell and her friends, she agreed to stay, but only if Bell, Haroheim, Welf and Lily would visit her regularly. After the agreement was made, the group headed back up to the surface even though they were exhausted. By the time they got out of the dungeon, it was morning. Fortunately, Bell cancelled training with AIS for the day, so he was able to go home to sleep. However, the two spies appeared to have followed them back to the surface. That evening, the sirens sounded at the Babel and all over the city. Apparently Rivera had been attacked and destroyed by monsters. The dungeon has been closed off. All familiars were ordered to await orders from the guild. The Ganesha Familia was put in charge of guarding the dungeon entrance. No one would be allowed to go inside the dungeon. As a precaution, Freya gave Bell an update showing a small improvement from the trip: level 4 strength, 141 endurance, 130 agility, 155 dexterity, 119 magic, 168 skill, Argonaut, Ox-Slayer magic, Firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance, escape big mess. At the Folkvanger, Freya, Otter and Bell were in her chambers discussing the emergency when Fels appeared. Fels Rivera was attacked by the Xenos. This happened soon after the Eiklos Familia attacked one of their hidden villages. Apparently a lot of Xenos were killed or captured. Fels Uranos is sending the Ganesha Familia to retake Rivera, but Bell may be able to help if he went with them. Freya, I would allow it if Otter goes along. Fels, there is no way Otter will not be recognized. Freya, we will get a Hades hat for Otter. Fels, the Ganesha Familia is getting ready, and plans to head down to Rivera in 2 hours. With that, Otter, Fels and Bell headed to the Hermes home. Not wanting to cause a big rumor at the Hermes Familia, Fels would be the only one going inside to borrow a Hades hat. After Fels reappeared with the item, Otter used the Hades hat to become invisible. They then went to get Bell a Ganesha Familia uniform, before heading to the Babel. At the Twilight Manor, the Loki executives were frustrated with the instructions from the guild to patrol and guard the city, which seems to be away from the real action in the dungeon. Beat was particularly angry while AIS looked out the window wondering how her boyfriend was doing. Finn tried to figure out why only the Ganesha Familia would be going to retake Rivera, with the only plausible reason being that Uranos were trying to keep them from something. Finn further concluded that it may be a matter of trust. There was something Uranos trusted Ganesha with that he did not trust them with. At the hostess, Aisha went to talk to Ryu about the situation. After finding out that Evelys may be involved, Ryu agreed to join a small group to infiltrate the dungeon. At the Babel, Shakti was having trouble keeping her Familia members calm after they received the order. They were to try to tame the monsters at Rivera instead of killing them, making their job nearly impossible. 2 hours later, having all the necessary material for the mission, the Ganesha Familia members headed into the dungeon. That included Bell, who was dressed as a supporter, as well as the invisible Otter who kept a reasonable distance from Bell. What they did not realize, Asfi, Aisha, and Ryu were also following them. Near Rivera a few hours later, the Ganesha Familia group reached the 18th floor. As they approached the destroyed Rivera, they saw a number of armed monsters heading towards them. As the raging group of monsters attacked, the Ganesha members were trying to tame them. Bell was also fighting when Asfi, Aisha, and Ryu joined in the battle to turn the tide. When Bell's hooded cloak was ripped away, LYD immediately noticed him and grabbed him to take him away from the battle. LYD, what are you doing here? Bell, I am part of the group sent here to keep the peace and reoccupy Rivera. LYD, it is not your problem and you should go back to the surface. Bell, what happened that caused the attack? LYD then explained that the Los Familia massacred one of their villages. They crucified a few Xenos and took Ween and several others hostage. That got Bell really angry and he told LYD there is no way he would allow Ween to be taken. LYD said to leave it to them as he cannot always be in the dungeon. At that point, a Ganesha member tried to tame LYD, who jumped away and left. At a nearby location, Fells was trying to reason with Gross, who was furious and told Fells to take the Ganesha members away. Gross then flew away, leaving the other Xenos to keep the Ganesha members busy. As Bell tried to follow LYD, he ran into Fells, who was trying to figure out the location where Gross was heading. As they headed towards the eastern part of the floor, they saw a group of Xenos going towards the dungeon wall. So they also headed there quickly. After some searching, they found an orichalcum door. Fells, though, had a key, so they were able to enter. Once inside, they heard a lot of noise ahead of them, so they followed the passageway. As they entered a large room, they saw a large number of destroyed cages. So they figured the Xenos just were at the room freeing their members. As they walked into the large room, they saw a group of Xenos surrounded by a large group of people. Dix, the head of the Los Familia, saw Bell and Fells and realized they were discovered. Dix immediately used his curse Phobita Daedalus on the group of Xenos near him. Recognizing that Dix was using a curse, Fells protected Bell from it. However, the curse caused the Xenos to lose their control. Dix apparently had the Xenos attack to kill Bell, Fells, and each other. Madness. Seeing that he was discovered, Dix used his curse Phobita Daedalus on the group of Xenos to force them to attack Bell and Fells. As the Xenos went crazy, Otter suddenly revealed himself in front of Bell and Fells. Single-handedly, Otter held off the Xenos without seriously injuring any of them. Seeing the level 7 Otter, Dix ran in fear into the next room, with Bell and Fells chasing after him, knowing that they need to defeat him to release the curse. With Bell and Fells chasing Dix, some of the Xenos chased after them. However, Fells was able to hold off those Xenos to allow Bell to deal with Dix. As Bell chased down Dix, they started to fight. Even though Dix was a level 5, Bell was actually pushing him back. As they continued to run and fight, Bell saw that they had entered a room where Ween was held. Really angry, Bell used a 5-second charge Argonaut punch against Dix, which caused the curse to be released. The impact of the punch did a lot of damage. However, what Bell did not realize was that Dix had to release the curse to regain his level 5 status in order to better absorb the damage. Desperate, Dix removed Ween's red stone on her forehead, forcing Ween to take her original form. Confused, Ween started to attack Bell, but suddenly realized who Bell was even as a monster and started to calm down. Seeing that his trick was not working, Dix used his curse to send Ween flying up the Knossos, chasing what she thought was Bell. Dix, better go chase your friend. She is not going to survive on the surface with that form. Then threw the red stone down another path. Bell had no choice but chase Ween up the stairs towards the surface. The Xenos, who were released from the curse, saw what happened with Ween, so they also followed Bell up the stairs to assist. Fells first went after the red stone and then also headed up the stairs. Otter seemed to have disappeared. Seeing that his trick worked, Dix escaped using another hallway, but was cut in half by a large black Minotaur Xenos in the Daedalus Street area. After some time, Ween in the Vuvaya form stormed out of a Knossos entrance area. Shortly after, Bell, other Xenos, and Fells followed. Members of the Loki Familia who were patrolling the area immediately engaged Ween. As they were going to attack her, Bell intervened. Bell, stop, that is my kill, shocked Loki member. What? Are you serious? As the Loki members continued to attack Ween, Bell stopped them with Firebolt. That brought time for Ween to get away with Bell following. Instantly the Loki members were furious and reported to Finn. Residents of the Daedalus area were also shocked with Bell's behavior. However, they then became preoccupied by the large number of Xenos who came spilling out of the entrance area. As the Loki members fought with the Xenos, the Loki executives were arriving on the scene. With the arrival of the Amazon twins, LYD and Gross were having a tough time. But then the Black Minotaur arrived and proceeded to use its howl to knock back most adventurers. By then Gareth also arrived, but he was also unable to contain the Minotaur Xenos. That allowed the other Xenos to run off. At that point, the combined efforts of the Loki executives were starting to push back the Minotaur, but then it took out a magic sword. Even after Beat absorbed much of the electricity attack, the Loki executives were temporarily unable to fight. Suddenly AIS did a surprise attack on the Minotaur and cut off its arm. However, even without one arm, the Minotaur was able to overpower AIS. When Finn and Gareth jumped in to help, a smoke screen and a supersonic attack by Ray brought time for the Xenos, including the Minotaur, to escape. A short while after, the Loki Familia regrouped to discuss their next steps. They wanted to go inside the Knossos, but Freya had the key. Meanwhile, the citizens were furious with Bell, who helped the Xenos. The next morning, things have stabilized a bit as the Xenos stayed out of sight. The Xenos themselves were hiding in several areas in the city, mostly in abandoned buildings in the Daedalus area. Bell's reputation, though, was ruined by the incident that destroyed a section of the Daedalus area, and the citizens saw with their own eyes that Bell protected the Xenos from the Loki Familia. Each of the main players were analyzing and deciding their next moves. At the Guild blamed the event all on Eiklos Familia, which was already destroyed in the incident. Aina was devastated when she heard about what Bell did, and she refused to believe it until she talks to Bell. However, the Xenos were still stuck in the surface world. Uranos and Fels were trying to figure out a way to get the Xenos back into the dungeon without being caught by the Loki Familia. Fels was in touch with most of the Xenos groups, except Astores the Minotaur was at some unknown location by himself. At the Twilight Manor, Finn, Reveria, and Gareth were busy coordinating multiple teams which were combing the city for any sign of the monsters. They also stationed Pausinel at the dungeon entrance and the Daedalus area where the Xenos came out of. Knowing that Bell was involved, they suspected the Freya Familia would be backing him. The problem is that Freya had the only key to get in the Knossos. At the same time, they made the logical connection behind the Guild's actions and the invading monsters. What they could not understand is why anyone would protect the monsters. But it seemed the Guild, Ganesha Familia, and the Freya Familia were all colluding on the matter. AIS was horrified by the news that her boyfriend helped the monsters, and she could not understand how that could be possible. She wanted to talk to him, but was forbidden to do so. At the Hermes home, Hermes was visibly scheming while Sv worried. Hermes was certainly not going to allow some talking monsters to affect the reputation of the hero who will move the age. At the Folkvanga, Freya was also notified of Bell's reputation taking a big hit, and she was not about to allow that. As a stat, until further notice, Bell was not allowed to leave Folkvanga without Freya accompanying him. Such an order was highly unusual, particularly with Freya, who avoids the public as much as she does. Fortunately, Otto was able to procure 3 Hades hats. In the meantime, Otto was gathering intelligence from their spies around the city, roughly learning where the Xenos were hiding. They were also in touch with Fels, who was able to communicate with some of the Xenos. The plan was to allow the Xenos to lay low for a few days so that the Loki Familia would be less vigilant. When the time comes, they would then sneak the Xenos back to the dungeon or the Knossos. Chessboard. The stalemate continued for a few days. The Xenos stayed hidden, waiting for opportunities to escape. The Loki Familia patrolled and searched. Freya had the only key to the Knossos they were aware of. Thus their patrols served 2 purposes, as the enhanced monster mess and the Everless, Knossos situation seemed to have merged. For one, continued patrols will keep the monsters under surveillance, while the patrols would put pressure on whatever was going on inside the Knossos between Everless, the enhanced monsters, Bell, and his allies. The Loki executives already came to realize that Uranos wants to protect the enhanced monsters and perhaps have them coexist with surface dwellers, which is almost unthinkable. However, if they had to choose which threat to eliminate, Everless seems to be by far the biggest threat. Freya, Uranos, and Fels waited. Hermes schemed and schemed while Sv worried. AIS thought about Bell and why he would help the monsters. Bell suffered those cold stares when he was outside with Freya without the Hades hats. 5 days later, eventually the city returned mostly to normal. However, the main players kept their same strategies. Finally, Hermes figured out where some of the Xenos were and then made a move. At one Xenos location, Hermes and Sv removed their Hades hats in an abandoned building where LYD was held up. To the Xenos' surprise, he was not attacking them and just said he wanted to talk. Hermes, I have your ticket back to safety. But there is something that I want. LYD, what is your ticket to safety? Hermes, well, you see how we were able to come here completely undetected. Ray, yes. So how many of those hats do you have? Hermes, not enough, but a couple trips would get most of you back to the dungeon. LYD, all right, you have our attention. Now what do you want? Hermes smiled. At another Xenos location, Hermes, Sv, and LYD removed their Hades hat in another abandoned building where Gross was held up. That shocked Gross and the other Xenos. Gross LYD, who are these people? LYD, they are offering us a deal. At Folkvanga, Hermes and Asfi showed up to the shock of the guards inside the Folkvanga. When they were interrogated, Hermes showed his divine aura and said he needed to speak to Freya. Freya, Hermes, so what is it that you want to discuss? Hermes, well, we have an impasse with the Loki Familia. I am offering a solution that requires your assistance. Freya, really? Well, please tell us about it, Hermes. We need some privacy. So Hermes, Asfi, Otter, and Freya went to discuss in a private room. At the guild, Hermes and Asfi showed up at the door of Urano's chambers. Then they heard Urano's inviting them in without knocking. Hermes, well, Urano's, we have a predicament on our hands, don't we? Urano's, I am sure you are offering a solution. Hermes smiled, certainly. At the Twilight Manor, Gareth, Finn, Reveria, and Loki were discussing the latest situation. With no key to get inside the Knossos, there was only so much they could do. Gareth, the rumor is that something is going to happen soon. Finn, how? We are patrolling the entire city, all the known entrances. Reveria, and just in case, we have extra patrols at the Daedalus area. Gareth, well, the word is there is a lot of communications going on at the guild. Finn, well, what else can we do? Loki, I would suggest you go to all the locations and see it with your own eyes. Finn, that has merit to it. All right, we will still focus on the known entrances and Daedalus. Reveria, the problem is the Ganesha Familia, the guild and the Freya Familia may all be working together. And Freya has the only key to get in the Knossos. Gareth, we do have enough personnel. Finn, barely. Raoul and I will stay near the Babel, and we will camp there even at night. Tyon and Tiona will patrol the areas between the Babel and the Daedalus area. Finn, Gareth, you and Beat will remain around the known entrance area at Daedalus. Camp there at night so we know that entrance area is secure. Reveria and Lefia will coordinate the patrol of the overall Daedalus area. AIS should monitor from the top of buildings around Daedalus also. Gareth, and we do not know where Hermes stand, though I suspect it is not with us. Finn, and Bell is friends with the Take and Myak familiars also. It seems like it is everyone against us. Loki, what about Hephaestus? Finn, my guess is that she is neutral and may be puzzled about what is going on. Loki, well, I will talk to Phepechi. We need some allies. Who is smarter? The next day at 9 a.m., Finn's plan was put into action. He was going to apply even more pressure on the enhanced monsters and Evolus in the Knossos. Finn and Raoul led a group to the Babel. The Ganesha members watched but did not interfere as the Loki group set up camp close to the dungeon entrance. Tyon and Tiona led a second group that patrolled the areas between the Babel and the Daedalus area. Reveria and Lefia led another group that was organizing the patrol of the entire Daedalus area. They set up camp in the portion of the Daedalus area closest to the Babel. Gareth and Beat led a group to the known entrance area at Daedalus. Onlookers were shocked watching as the Loki members set up camp in the middle of the busy area. In the meanwhile, AIS was monitoring while hopping between the top of buildings around Daedalus. At the Hermes home, news of the Loki Familia deployment quickly reached Hermes' ears, bringing a smile to his face. Putting on their Hades hat, Hermes and Asfi headed outside their Familia home. At the guild, Uranos was notified of the deployment by Fells. Fells, apparently Hermes was correct, Uranos, so it begins. At the Folkvanga, Freya, Otter, Bell and Lily were also notified of the deployment. Soon, Hermes and Asfi appeared in their meeting room. Hermes, so our deal is still good. Freya, yes, we can now move forward. Otter immediately left the room to handle a matter. Bell and Lily soon also headed out with several Hades hats. An hour later, without warning, two gargoyles, a harpy and a siren dived down towards the Twilight Manor and started attacking. With barely any staff remaining from Finn's deployment, the remaining defenders were only low-level adventurers who screamed and ran away from the sonic attacks and magic weapon attacks. The monsters made their presence plenty known by breaking windows, burning Loki banners, and even tying up 5 weak defenders and then hanging them upside down. Loki was furious but had to stay away from all windows while being surrounded by security. At the Babel, a Loki member screamed, Finn, Twilight Manor is under attack. Finn, we got outflanked. Loki member, the report is several flying monsters. At least 4. Using sonic attacks and magic weapons. Finn, so the monsters are intelligent or being guided or controlled by Evolus or someone else. Finn was furious with his strategic mistake, and he unfortunately had no idea how powerful the 4 attackers were. There were rumors that one gargoyle had the power of a first-level adventurer, and now there were 2 of them. With his thumb going crazy, Finn immediately sent for help. Unable to reach Reveria's group, he sent a runner to find AIS, who had the best chance to get home the quickest. Messages were also sent to the twins and Gareth. Finn himself left with most of his group. The enemy went after their white female king, and they were totally exposed. As he rushed back towards the Twilight Manor, he left Raoul and a couple members to watch the Babel. All this time, the thumb was aching like crazy. With the Amazon twins, Finn's message reached Tiona and Tyon, and they immediately took the entire group back towards the Twilight Manor. With Reveria and Lefia, Finn's people were unable to get hold of Reveria. Apparently, Reveria, Lefia and a number of elf members were able to secure a key to the Knossos and headed down the labyrinth for a surprise elf squad attack. Gareth and Beat, with most of the executives and their groups heading back to the Twilight Manor, Gareth stayed at the entrance area while Beat replaced Tiona and Tyon on a solo patrol of the Daedalus area. With AIS, Finn's runner was able to find AIS, and she headed back home at top speed using aerial. At the Folkvanga, Hummies and Freya sat in their situation room with a large replica model of Aura Rio on a table. They continued to monitor the situation as reports came in while moving little figures on the Aura Rio city model. Other than Alan and Hogni who provided security, Freya's executives had already been sent to accomplish their various tasks. As they talked, Asfi flew back inside to report. Asfi AIS is on her way back to the Twilight Manor. Warned of Ari's approach, the attack group have ended their flanking maneuver. They are now flying southwest to draw their fastest asset further away from the Babel and the Daedalus area. After the report, Asfi flew back out the window. Freya, are they still falling for it? Hummies, they pretty much have no choice now. They have no idea how strong the four are. If Loki is taken out, they all lose their power. Freya member Finn's group is about halfway back from the Babel. The Amazons are a similar distance away. Both groups are still heading back to their home at top speed on the ground. Freya, good plan. You tricked the trickster and the braver. Hummies smiled. It is easier to defend, especially when you have numbers in your favor. At the Twilight Manor, with the flying monsters leaving when AIS got closer, the defenders rushed to free the tied-up members. Loki was furious, but there was nothing she could do with the situation changing rapidly. At the Babel entrance, with Raoul and a couple others staying on site, Shakti asked them what happened and offered to help while sharing some food. While talking and eating together, Raoul did not notice that the Ganesha members left a significant portion of the entrance unguarded. At the Folkvanga, 10 minutes later, Asfi came back into the situation room again. Asfi AIS gave chase to the four flying monsters. While AIS was still at long range, the three Xenos used the invisibility trick and should have sharply changed course. Lily still continued to draw AIS closer to her as the second gargoyle before landing in a crowded area near the pharmacy. While the second gargoyle caused a big panic, she was able to quickly change into an elf and made her escape. Freya smiled. That Cinderella spell is pretty useful, Freya member. AIS could not figure out what happened to the second gargoyle, so is headed back to the Twilight Manor now. At the Twilight Manor, about half an hour after their ordeal began, Finn, the twins and Loki were planning defensive strategies as AIS flew in. Once AIS reported that the flying monsters disappeared into thin air, Loki immediately became very upset. Angry Loki $$% and, we have been totally played. Finn read her mind. OMG, the Babel entrance. Immediately Finn sent AIS back to check the Babel entrance. At the same time, Tiona and her group headed back towards the Daedalus area. This time, Tyon was left to protect Loki. While running back toward the Babel with his group, Finn, we wanted to flush them out, but instead, they have us running around in circles chasing our own tails. Confrontation. On the 5th floor of the dungeon, LYD and the first group of Xenos were extremely happy to be back in the dungeon. After returning the Hades hats to Lulyun and Fells, they continued to head down the dungeon. At the Babel entrance, as AIS approached the Babel entrance, she saw a large gap in the security encirclement formed by the Ganesha members. As she headed towards that gap, a Vuiva appeared as it fell down and the Hades hat came off. With the Ganesha members shocked, the monster was carried towards the entrance by an invisible force. AIS then chased as fast as she could, but she had a bad feeling about what she was going to discover. Raoul and the two Loki members also saw the Vuivia, but their path to the dungeon entrance was blocked by Shakti and the Ganesha members. Shakti, we will take care of it, Guild's orders. With Finn's group, as Finn's group rushed towards the Babel, they heard about a report that a monster was seen being carried by an invisible person into the entrance. Without Ari's speed, they could only run as fast as they could. Finn hoped, maybe we can still catch some of them. At the same time, Finn was desperately waiting to hear about what happened to Reveria's group with the initial report that her group entered the Knossos. Beat on solo patrol, hearing the reports of a monster at the Babel, Beat headed towards there. Tiona and her group. Tiona also received the report of the monster sighting near the Babel and was converging on the area. Gareth and his group. Gareth remained disciplined and stay watching the known Knossos entrance area. With Reveria's group, Reveria, Lefia, and the elf squad attacked inside the Knossos. Using their magic enhanced with Reveria's magic circle, the elf squad created havoc in the Knossos. When Revis showed up, Reveria and Lefia launched twin-wind Fimbulvitas at Revis, which she was barely able to escape from with damage to the left side of her body. After dealing with her injury, Revis chased the elves using an alternate route. Remembering that AIS met a god on the 12th floor, Reveria's group headed for the 12th floor and found an exit passageway to the dungeon there. Reveria then told Lefia to return to the surface through the dungeon to get help from Finn, and then continued to attack Evelus. At the Folkvanger, Freya and Hermes continued to monitor the situation. When they heard that Wynne was seen near the Babel, they became worried that Bell would protect her without worrying about the consequences. Though with AIS also being seen at the Babel, Freya thought even if she no longer loves you, I will, little one however. Deciding that the situation had entered endgame, Freya and Hermes wanted to watch with their own eyes what was going to transpire. With Alan, Hogni, Asfi, and a large group of lower-level members, they headed for the Babel. At the Twilight Manor, with the reports of the monster sighting, Loki also decided to watch with her own eyes. Thus Tyon and a large group of lower-level members provided security as Loki headed towards the Babel. On the first floor of the dungeon, as AIS chased after the Vuvaya, someone suddenly stood in her way. A fight, as AIS chased the Vuvaya into the first floor of the dungeon, someone suddenly blocked her way. It was Bell, who had just removed his Hades hat. Determined to kill the monster, AIS tried to go around Bell, but he got in her way again. Bell Ween, run. Bell continued to block Ari's way. AIS, please listen. She is not a normal monster. She is kind and intelligent. AIS refused to listen to Bell and tried to get around him again. As if they were sparring, their weapons clashed. Neither wanted to injure the other, but neither would give an inch. Bell, AIS, please listen to me. Bell, it is important. Ween is not a monster as you know it. AIS still refused to talk or listen to Bell. And she just could not understand why Bell was trying so hard to protect a monster. As they continued to sort of fight, AIS was furious about Bell defending the monster. Finally she had to ask in anger, why are you defending a monster? How could you do such a thing? Yet when Bell tried to tell her Ween is intelligent and kind, AIS refused to listen. And when he said he wished for a world where Ween and other Xenos could be safe in, she thought he went crazy. AIS got more serious and gave Bell a real beating after a while. AIS, I am going to fight for real now, so stop trying to stop me. It will hurt if I cut you. At that point, Ween came rushing there and put herself in front of Bell with her arms extended to protect Bell, which shocked AIS. Ween, please do not hurt Bell. Cut me and don't cut Bell. AIS was even more shocked when Ween spoke and also tried to protect Bell. How could a monster try to protect a human? AIS, this is a trick. No monster will protect a human. Ween, this is no trick. AIS, monsters cause fear and pain. Monsters have claws that injured people. Ween decided to show AIS how serious she was. She destroyed her sharp claws and ripped her wing off. Ween then begged AIS not to hurt Bell and told AIS the story of her past before removing her red stone. Ween's words made AIS think of her past and how similar she and Ween was. The only difference between them was that Ween had a hero clearly protecting her. That ultimately broke Ari's resolve. AIS then told them she could not fight them anymore. Her vow to kill monsters had collapsed. AIS was crying, you are supposed to be my hero and protect me, but now you protect a monster. And got me all messed up. Bell then went to hug her, I want to be your hero. I will protect you to the best that I can with every drop of my energy. But I also want to protect the innocent. AIS, look at what is inside Ween, not what is outside. Giving AIS a kiss. Liking the embrace and the kiss, but confused about everything, AIS told Bell that she needed some time to think. She turned around after giving him her healing potion, which Bell and Ween shared. As AIS went outside the dungeon, Beat was there after having watched the whole thing played out. He asked whether it was okay. AIS thanked him, so he said he will leave. AIS then slowly walked outside the dungeon before leaving using aerial. After AIS left, Ween followed the other Xenos down the dungeon. Otter then removed his Hades hat, and Fells soon arrived from the 5th floor. After Fels congratulated Bell and Otter on their success, they walked together outside the dungeon. As Bell emerged from the dungeon with Fels and Otter, he saw Finn and Tiona outside talking to Shakti. Before he had a chance to talk to them, there was a horrible howl from a long distance coming from the Daedalus area. Shortly after, he could see a large group approaching the Babel from the distance. They also saw a group approaching from the Folkvanga direction, as well as another group from the Twilight Manor direction. It appeared that the final confrontation was upon them. The main event, as the large group approached from the Daedalus area, Finn and Tiona went to talk to Bell, Otter and Fels. Finn, Otter, I must admit that we have been outwitted. Otter, I cannot take credit for outwitting the braver, while Hermes smiled in the background. Bell, these are not typical monsters. Ween is kind and intelligent, Finn looking surprised. What about Evolus? Bell, they fought Evolus in the Knossos and were on our side, which further surprised Finn. Tiona, little Argonaut, do you have a monster fetish? AIS will be jealous, making Bell embarrassed. Tomato-faced Bell, Tiona-san, the Xenos want to coexist. They just want to be able to smile and laugh like the rest of us, making Finn and Tiona quite confused. Soon, Freya's group and Loki's group arrived at the Babel. Freya immediately went to talk to Otter and checked on Bell. After hearing about Bell's battle with AIS, she gave Bell a quick update that showed a big jump. Level 4 strength, 395 endurance, 378 agility, 413 dexterity, 366 magic, 380 skill, Argonaut, Ox Slayer magic, Firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance. Escaped during that time. Loki also went to confer with Finn about what happened. In disbelief about kind, intelligent monsters, Loki went to confront Freya, Hermes, Bell and Fels. Loki, Freya, I admit you had us running in circles. But what insanity is this? Kind monsters. An alliance with monsters. Have you people gone insane? Before anyone could answer, there was a much louder howl as the large group from the Daedalus was getting close. They could see a large group of adventurers approaching with the Black Minotaur. Seeing the danger, Finn and the twins headed towards the Minotaur, but they were blocked by Otter, Alan, and Hogni. Suddenly, Beat jumped into the scene, and AIS, who was further away, also headed back to assist her Familia. A confrontation was imminent. Finn doing a facepalm, what are you people trying to accomplish? That Minotaur is very dangerous. Otter looking at Bell, my Familia is bringing the Minotaur here for a battle, but the battle is not meant for you. We do not want to fight you even if we have advantage in numbers. Hermes interjected from the background, braver, watch for yourself. It will be glorious, Finn, we will watch for now. If anything happens and there are casualties, then you are responsible. Finally, the one-armed Minotaur saw Bell and realized who Bell was and approached Bell. Surprising everyone, the Minotaur introduced himself to Bell in a respectful fashion. I am Asterius. May I know your name? Bell, I am Bell Cranel of the Freya Familia. Asterius, you are my fated rival who defeated me on the 9th floor. I have dreamed of a rematch. Would you grant me a rematch as my greatest rival? Bell, I hope we can coexist with the Xenos, but I will agree to your rematch. Bell then looked to Otter and Freya and they nodded at him. He then looked at AIS and smiled at her before turning to his new rival. As Asterius and Bell battled with axe against knives, everyone could hardly believe their eyes. Bell, a new level 4, was fighting at a much higher level. Freya and Otter were the only ones who understood that Bell's Ox Slayer skill was kicking in. With his stacked-up stats and Ox Slayer, Bell was fighting Asterius like a mid-level 6. Without any Argonaut use, it was an even fight with the injured Minotaur. Many citizens of Rio were watching from near the Babel and started cheering for the little Argonaut again, which made both Hermes and Freya happy. As the fight continued, more and more citizens came out to watch, and the mood was incredibly intense and the cheering was deafening. With the huge crowd and the thundering cheers, Aina and other guild members also came outside of their building to watch the epic battle. Syr and Ryu also came to see the main event to cheer for Bell. Hermes, Loki and Freya were all in awe watching the battle. Hermes, of course, was proclaiming his normal hero of the age stuff. Loki was also starting to understand why the battle was meant for Bell, with his reputation in Rio being repaired by the minute. At the same time, Freya was soaking in the battle as well as Bell's soul, which was so clear and shining throughout the battle. Freya to Loki smiling, now you see why my child will shine like none other. Loki refused to acknowledge Bell's hero role, but had nothing to rebut with. Finn also watched the battle and was amazed at the level Bell was fighting at. Finn realized that Bell was a kind hero who simply wanted to help the weak. Inspired by Bell's pureness, he decided to also redouble his efforts to give Bell a better competitor in the hero race. Beat was speechless watching the former diaper boy fighting at a higher skill level than Beat himself was at. He hated the feeling, but he could not take his eyes off the battle. The twins were fangirling again, screaming little Argonaut cheers at the top of their lungs. AIS watched her boyfriend be the hero that she could not be, while clearly fighting far above the level he was just fighting her at. Mini AIS was cheering as hard as she could, even as AIS was simply staring at the battle unable to utter a word. With the enormous crowd support, it finally hit home that he had become the hero for most of Ororio. It was her Familia that was becoming out of touch. While the fight continued, Lefia came running out of the entrance, surprising many. Lefia, though, had a great view of the epic battle, and Bell's excellence immediately captivated the adventurer in her as she joined in the cheering. Though she was painfully aware how cool that her rival looked, she promised herself to work even harder to catch up. Nevertheless, Lefia remembered that Reveria was in danger and quickly went to Finn, who was watching the battle with Loki, Freya, Hermes, Fels, and Otter. Lefia immediately reported that Reveria's group was on the 12th floor of the Knossos and required assistance for battling Evolus and Revis. Otter in his normal stoic tone: Finn, are you going to save your comrades? Nine Hells is the only first-class adventurer fighting in the Knossos, completing the checkmate. Fels then made a more than fair offer. There is a sizable group of Xenos with significant strength close to the 12th floor. If we can agree to a ceasefire, I will ask them to assist your group. Finn and Loki looked at each other in defeat, as they had no choice but agree to a ceasefire. After Fels contacted LYD and Gross for help, Fels left with Finn, Tyon, Lefia, Raoul, and Beat for the dungeon. Not going to repeat their recent mistake, Finn left AIS and Tiona with Loki to monitor the Minotaur situation along with the Freya Familia. Rivals, at the Babel, as the fierce battle between Asteris and Bell continued, Bell had a small advantage with the Minotaur already severely injured when they started. As Bell pushed Asteris back, the Minotaur was pushed through the outside wall in the dungeon entrance area. The huge amount of dust and debris blocked the view of many citizens as they did not dare get close to the battle. The adventurers, particularly the high-level ones, followed after Bell and Asteris as the battle continued inside. In the dungeon, as Finn, Tyon, Beat, Raoul, and Lefia rushed down the dungeon, the Xenos entered the Knossos entrance on the 12th floor. Going through the passageways, they soon saw a fight between Reveria's elf squad and Evolus with Revis. It was obvious that Reveria's group was about out of magic. While LYD ran towards the elves yelling that Finn had sent them, the other Xenos joined the fight and helped the elves hold off Evolus and Revis. Reveria did not know what to think about the talking monster, but she was not about to attack the talking monsters that were fighting Evolus. 10 minutes later at the Babel, Bell continued to gain the upper hand over Asteris, and a 5-second charge kick knocked Asteris through another wall. As they fought, Otter, AIS, Asfi and Tiona continued to follow them inside to monitor the battle. Loki, Freya, and Hermes also followed behind the first-class adventurers who ensured their safety. Several Ganesha members, including Shakti, also followed them inside the Babel to watch the fight. Outside, no one else dared enter even though the cheers for the little Argonaut continued unabated. Inside the Knossos, even with the reinforcements, Evolus had the upper hand. With no choice, the elves and the Xenos started to retreat back towards the dungeon. Using the last bit of remaining magic, Reveria launched Rhea Levitine towards the enemy before the group ran out of the Knossos with the Xenos close behind. After the flames settled down, Evolus and Revis chased after them into the dungeon while they retreated towards the 11th floor entrance. In the meantime, Finn and Fels had already reached the 5th floor. Inside the Babel, Bell was clearly winning after another 10 minutes of the slugfest. With a 10-second charge Argonaut slash, he finally knocked Asteris down for the count. As Asteris prepared himself for the finishing blow, Bell instead poured a healing potion on him and lent him a hand to get up. That shocked AIS, Tiona, Otter, and almost everyone except Freya. For Freya, this is simply the same Bell who begged for the Barbella's safety after they kidnapped him a few weeks ago. Freya to Loki, now you see why my favorite will fulfill his true calling to be the one to lead the age. A visibly shaken Loki admitted, I am not sure I will agree with your new age. But Bell is indeed unique. AIS and Tiona both had to pinch themselves to believe what they just saw. Bell defeated the monster but healed it instead of killing it. This was the same monster that held her and her entire Familia off for a long battle. And then he offered his hand to help the monster get up. Their idea of what is right and what is wrong had just been completely turned upside down. Shocked Asturias, why did you heal me, my rival? I lost. Bell, we are rivals. Rivals don't need to kill each other. We battle to decide the winner, but why does the loser have to die? Let's have our rivalry based on trust and friendship. Asturias, you have indeed earned my trust. Bell, it was actually not a fair fight. You are already injured and without the use of one arm. Go get better and train. We will have a better battle when you are recovered. Asturias, yes, my rival. I will take my leave and look forward to our next battle. Hopefully the first of many. Then collected himself and headed down the dungeon. At that point, Hermes raised his arms and screamed in glorious triumph. The ending was better than he could have scripted. In one battle, Bell had actually earned the trust and respect of the most powerful Xenos. Loki was now at a total loss of words. She did decide that Bell had certainly earned her attention to give his new approach a fair look. Watching and hearing everything, Ai's mind was spinning. As much as she was incapable of being a true hero, Bell had become that true hero. She could only ponder whether that was her boyfriend's true calling, to reshape the world based on his strange new ideas of what is right and wrong. Freya went to check on and congratulate Bell. She also gave him 2 kisses on the cheeks, which still made AIS extremely jealous. Despite the euphoric circumstances, Loki suddenly came to her senses after a minute to gather her thoughts. Loki ordered AIS and Tiona, don't worry about me. Reveria is still danger in the dungeon. Try to catch up with Finn. If you cannot, the Knossos entrance is somewhere on the eastern wall of the 12th floor of the dungeon. Thus AIS activated Aerial and move at top speed into the dungeon with Tiona running after her. Not waiting for an update, Bell immediately raced after AIS and Tiona. As he ran, Otto followed while carrying a large case of potions. Freya smirked watching Bell catch a healing potion and then a recovery potion thrown from Otto. Indeed, Otto looked like a doting parent chasing after a child with diapers and milk bottles. Hermes also wanted to follow them into the dungeon, but Asfi stopped him. However, she knew he is going to be insufferable after masterminding this huge victory. After sending AIS and Tiona, Loki sent message to Gareth to join her at the Babel. A short while later, with the action all finished, everyone else went back outside the Babel. The public had mostly went home after being told that the little Argonaut had won but had to go on an emergency mission to help the Loki Familia. Pleased with the news, Aina and her co-workers also went back inside to do their normal work. At a cafe near the Babel, the 3 gods continued to wait for news from the dungeon along with Asfi, Gareth, and several Freya executives. The question was if the help would arrive in time. Consequences: on the 11th floor of the dungeon, with Evelys and Revis hot on their trail, the elf squad and the Xenos escaped as fast as they could up the dungeon. The head start they got from Reveria's Rhea Levitine was the difference, but the enemy was starting to catch up. Also, that spell basically used up all of Reveria's magic reserves. Fortunately, the physical distance prevented the use of the suicide squads that were deployed in many traps in the Knossos. In fact, the enemy started having their suicide squads trail their main force by a significant distance. That was due to the elves repeatedly firing off fire magic with the hope to set off their Kensuke explosives. As Revis got close, she threw a cursed blade towards the elves, but Rey sacrificed her body to save Alicia. In tears, Alicia carried the injured Xenos with her to try to save her savior. Unfortunately, that got Evelys even closer, and things were starting to look dire. As Revis was about to strike down the elves, reinforcements finally arrived with Finn, Beat, Fells, Tyon, Raoul, and Lefia. Finn, Beat, and Tyon went to gang up on Revis while Lefia, Raoul, and Fells helped with the injured Xenos and elves. Finn, Lefia, help Reveria. She is almost mind 0. Get them up the dungeon now. Tyon, we will hold them off. Just get them out of here. Lefia, hike. With Finn, Beat, and Tyon forming a barrier against the enemy, the elves and Xenos were able to retreat to the 10th floor. There, they regrouped a bit while treating the wounded. The first priority was a couple recovery potions for Reveria while using healing potions on the injured elves and Xenos. Unfortunately, the injuries to Rey and Alicia would not close due to the use of cursed weapons. Thus, they rushed the 2 back to the surface with Gross carrying Rey and LYD carrying Alicia. Seeing Reveria in better condition, Lefia headed back to assist Finn's group along with several Xenos. As Lefia approached the fight, she started to chant Fusillade Phalerica. The spell took out most of the remaining Evelys, but they could see that Revis was unaffected. Further back, Ain also seemed to be completely unaffected by Lefia's attack. However, The fire-based spell soon ignited a whole series of explosions when all the Kensuke on the dead Everless members all exploded. The explosions were enormous, collapsing a huge portion of the floor. A minor complication suddenly, the entire dungeon seemed to have gone into massive convulsions and spawned a monster that no one recognized. Being closest to Revis, it first attacked Revis. While uninjured, Revis realized the monster was extremely powerful. With Everless mostly destroyed by Lefia's attack and the subsequent explosions, Revis did not want to have to fight the monster, the Xenos and the Loki Familia by herself. Thus she quickly left and headed to the 12th floor. With Revis gone, the monster quickly killed all the remaining Everless members with incredible speed. Finn, Beat, Tyon, and Lefia were grateful that Revis was gone and the remnants of Everless destroyed. However, they did not know whether the monster was a Xenos on their side, though they quickly realized that the monster was not an ally after it attacked Beat. While Finn, Tyon, and Lefia watched, Beat and the monster had an incredibly fast exchange of blows. The problem is that while Beat's strikes hit, they did not cause much damage on its heavily armored body. On the other hand, the monster dealt a tremendous amount of damage on Beat. The monster then finished Beat off by hitting him with its tail, sending him flying into a wall. Seeing the monster defeat Beat, Lefia launched Arc's Ray at it, but the magic bounced back at Lefia. The reflected Arc's Ray caused a huge injury and knocked Lefia unconscious. The monster then went back to finish Beat, forcing Finn to jump in to defend with his spear. Finn fared better against the monster than Beat but again was unable to land an effective strike due to the monster's armor. Finn's attack did allow time for Tyon to carry Beat away to the 10th floor for treatment by the elves. However, with Lefia was still lying nearby, Finn could not allow the fighting to head towards the unconscious elf during their battle. That liability forced Finn to expose himself significantly more. After a few more minutes, Finn was punished by a deep slash from the monster. No longer able to put up an effective defense, he ran in the opposite direction from Lefia, hoping to draw the monster away. As the monster gave chase, AIS finally arrived. Seeing the unconscious Lefia and her injured captain, AIS immediately intercepted the monster while launching a powerful aerial attack. Unfortunately, the huge aerial attack also reflected back, disrupting Ariel and knocking AIS unconscious 50 feet away against the dungeon wall. Taking advantage at that point, the monster then turned its attention back to the injured Paolum. Fortunately, Tyon arrived, followed by Tiona, Bell, and Otter soon after. Seeing AIS injured, Bell was furious and the grand bell immediately started ringing. As Bell charged, Tyon used a potion on Finn while Tiona went to assist the few small Xenos carry Lefia to safety. That left Bell and Otter to deal with the monster. The monster assessed the situation and decided Otter was the much bigger threat. Thus it focused its attack on Otter, who took on the monster while Bell continued to charge. Once Finn started to recover a bit, he immediately warned Bell and Otter about the monster. Meantime, Tyon tried to princess carry Finn back, but sadly he wanted to stay. Finn, the monster's armor reflects magic. Bell, whatever you do not use an Argonaut firebolt on it. Hearing the warning, Bell decided to instead cast firebolt on his blades before applying Argonaut charging to increase their power. At that point, Otter was clearly winning, being stronger and faster. While the monster could attack with both arms, legs, and its vicious tail, Otter was able to get in several good deep cuts. Realizing Otter is far too strong, the monster decided to escape. However, Bell stood in its way with two flaming blades that were now glowing brilliant white. Despite the grand bell and the dangerous-looking blades, the monster believed that Bell was the easier path for its escape. It slashed at Bell, who countered with a slash with one of his glowing blades. Bell's slash broke through, cutting off one of the monster's arms with the impact, sending the monster into the air back towards Otter. Otter then sent the monster back towards Bell with a slash with his huge sword that chopped off the monster's tail. While the monster was still up in the air from the rebound, Bell leaped high into the air and slashed down at it with the other glowing blade. That slash chopped off the monster's other arm and shattered its body. To make sure the job was done, Otter and Bell hacked the monster to pieces, which soon turned to dust. The victorious group then headed to the 10th floor to check on the injured. At that point, Reveria was feeling a lot better and Beat just woke back up. Still, with Lefia and AIS still out cold, they did not want to test their victory. Thus, the entire group headed back up the dungeon with Bell Princess carrying AIS and Tiona doing the same with Lefia. Bell was still very worried about AIS, but she actually quietly woke up about halfway back up to the surface. At the cafe near the Babel, after several hours of waiting, the three gods were happy to see them safely returned. The three gods could easily tell that AIS was no longer unconscious, but they decided to allow the girl take advantage of the situation. The first issue discussed was the condition of Alicia and Ray. Turned out that Alicia and Ray were both treated by Amid, who was able to cure them of the wounds from the cursed weapons. Both were now recovering at a secluded section of the Twilight Manor. When the topic shifted to the Knossos mission, they all agreed that the Knossos operations still need to proceed. However, the hope was that the operation had gotten easier with so much of Everless destroyed. Though after the huge battles, they decided to give themselves a few days to recover and prepare for the mission. Also, the Dionysus Familia and the Hephaestus Familia will be assisting. Regarding the Xenos, even though the first collaboration was successful, everyone agreed that the overall matter needs to be negotiated. However, they also agreed that it could wait until after the Knossos mission was completed. Plus, they were all glad to hear that the Xenos agreed to take part in the Knossos mission. Finally, when the conversation turned to the strange monster that defeated so many first-class Loki adventurers, Fels informed them that the monster was called Juggernaut, and it only appears when the dungeon is heavily damaged. That evening, Freya gave Bell an update and was surprised. Love, at the Folkvanger, after the incredible ordeal of the Xenos and the Juggernaut, Bell hoped to finally have a chance to relax a bit before the Knossos mission starts. That evening, Freya gave him an update that evening and the result was surprising. 3 weeks after reaching level 4, Bell was ready to level 5. Level 4 strength, 895 endurance, 893 agility, 974 dexterity, 856 magic, 1080 skill, Argonaut, Ox Slayer magic, Firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance, escape. Just as it was for level 4, Freya recommended that Bell increase his stats before leveling, which Bell agreed with. However, they were all in agreement that he should level before the Knossos mission. Thus relaxation became intense training. At the Twilight Manor, Tyon and Tiona were looking forward to training with Bell, who looked totally cool in his latest battle. Their fangirling from afar was getting to AIS and Lefia for different reasons. AIS was however still very torn about what happened with the Xenos. Her vow to kill monsters had now been shattered, so it was difficult for her to move forward. So she did look forward to talk to Bell and see how he will continue to fight and kill monsters. Loki, Finn, Reveria and Gareth also discussed how they were played in the recent events. Loki was frustrated at being bested by Freya and Hermes. Finn though comforted Loki, insisting that it was essentially them against everyone else. Reveria, so I missed the Bell Cranel show. What really happened at the Babel earlier today? Finn, well, Bell defeated the Black Minotaur that held most of us at bay. Then instead of killing it after defeating it, he healed it, made friends with it, and thus gained a new ally. All that time, much of Ororio was watching and cheering him on, which completely repaired his reputation and actually took it to a new elevated level. Then after most of us were defeated by the Juggernaut, Bell and Otter proceeded to defeat the monster by bouncing it back and forth with their weapons strikes. This was also enabled with a new use for his Argonaut skill and his Firebolt magic that created some type of flaming sword which shone a brilliant white. That about covers it. Gareth nonchalantly, the Paulum sounds jealous LOL, making Finn wince. Reveria smiled, that about covers it. Loki winked Finn, you need to catch up in the hero race. I am counting on you. Finn and the Xenos. Reveria, after being saved by Ray and other Xenos, Alicia and the other elves will refuse to fight them. Gareth, they do look like the peaceful type. Finn, all except the Asteris. But he is now Bell's buddy. Loki laughed at Finn again, causing the others to join in. In Urano's chamber, Fels, it appears most of Everless has been destroyed by the Loki Familia and the Xenos. Uranos, did we identify any of the bodies? Fels, most were not recognizable. Fels, Jura Hemla of the Rudra Familia was found among the dead. It was originally thought that he perished when the Gale was getting revenge. Uranos, is the Knossos mission ready? Fels, I healed Asterisum, so he will be taking part. Aurano, we have really come to rely on Bell Cranel. The next day, Bell met AIS, Tiona and Tyon at the city walls. With Bell now a very advanced 4th level, the training was very intense. Stats-wise, Bell had caught up or exceed the 3 sisters, when considering the stacked-up stats. Thus, there was minimal lap pillowing to be had. Otter and Freya continued to train Haroheim in the morning. Haroheim had made a lot of progress even as the Xenos situation was blowing up. She now was able to boost Otter for more than 20 minutes multiple times with 30 minutes of rest in between. Alternatively, she could also boost 5 people for up to 8 minutes twice with an hour of rest in between. At lunch, AIS got to ask Bell about his feelings regarding monsters. AIS, Bell, With your feelings about the Xenos, how do you fight monsters and kill them? Bell, actually, I asked one of the Xenos, LYD, about this. AIS, really? Bell, yes. He said absolutely kill a monster if you come upon one. Assume a monster is dangerous. If it is an intelligent one or Xenos, it will let you know. AIS, well, that sort of makes sense, Bell. I know it is hard to do, but I have already gotten used to it. AIS pouted, here is another thing, you are ahead of me. Bell, I still have a long way to go. Tiona butted in, little Argonaut. You have already caught up to us. Tyon, you sure have. And you still have not shared your secret. Bell, I don't know what it is. For the afternoon, Otter and Freya had joined Bell's training on the city walls. Otter took turns sparring with AIS and with Bell. The goal was to help AIS fight Revis and to help Bell learn to fight someone that was still stronger than him. In the evening, Bell performed Argonaut training for both charging firebolts as well as the sword-charging technique he discovered in the fight against the Juggernaut. This was a great way to ensure he got tired and sleepy for a good night of sleep. This training schedule pretty much continued until the Knossos mission, which was 4 days later. On Bell's final stats update, he was SS or beyond for all stats before leveling to level 5, which was achieved in a little under 5 months. Level 4 strength, 1135 endurance, 1087 agility, 1213 dexterity, 1068 magic, 1291 skill, Argonaut, Ox Slayer, love magic, firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance, escape, magic resistance. Freya then explained the details. Magic resistance was not unexpected, and everyone knew the rules. However, the intrigue was with the unique love skill. When she discussed with Bell, she admitted that she was at a loss of how it would be used in a fight. However, Freya did enjoy teasing Bell a bit regarding what it implied for his original intentions to become an adventurer. That was of course followed by a head pat and 2 kisses on the cheeks. Freya was curious herself how powerful the love skill would be compared to her charm. But it did make sense given how Bell gained so many fans in the Barbellas, the general public and even the Xenos, while not even counting his potential harem members. However, she was also concerned about what effect it will have on the other girls, particularly her rival AIS. Nevertheless, exploring Bell's new skill was probably going to have to wait until after the Knossos mission. The plan: the next day, the Familias gathered for the Knossos mission with Finn as the overall general in charge. Realizing Enio is a god, Loki and Dionysus would be going into the Knossos to protect the adventurers. Beyond Enio, the primary targets were anticipated to be Revis and multiple demi-spirits. The primary strategy was to force the enemy to use the dual fetuses inside the Knossos, making it difficult to transport the transformed demi-spirits to the surface. The Familia Alliance believed that the most critical floors would be between 7 and 12. There were probably dual fetuses and or demi-spirits close to the control room on the 9th floor. Thus the attack plan would be multipronged. 4 groups would attack from Dedalius Street, 3 groups would attack from the 12th floor entrance from the dungeon, while the Xenos with Fells would attack from the 18th floor entrance. During the operation, the Ganesha Familia would deploy at the Dedalius entrance area and the Babel entrance. Several Freya executives and support members would guard the 12th floor entrance from the dungeon side. From the Dedalius Street entrance, the first team consisted of Finn, Tyon, Ray, Ermid, Loki and members of the Loki Familia. The second team consisted of Gareth, Lefia, Philvis, Dionysus and the Dionysus Familia. The third team consisted of 2 Gulliver brothers, Ryu and members of the Freya Familia. The fourth team consisted of Tsubaki, Tiona, Raoul and members of the Hephaestus Familia. Teams 1 and 3 would travel together with Team 1 leading the attack and Team 3 mopping up. Teams 2 and 4 would also travel together with Team 2 leading the attack and Team 4 mopping up. The Hermes Familia would also be involved at the Dedalius Street entrance, though their role was not explained to the other teams. The attack from the 12th floor entrance would be timed to start after the attacks from the surface had made substantial progress. The goal was to draw the enemy defense towards the surface before attacking the central area from the 12th floor entrance. The 5th team consisted of Bell, AIS, Otter, Welf, Harrowheim, members of the Freya Familia and the Loki Familia. The 6th team consisted of Reveria, the Elf Squad, Beat and members of the Loki Familia. The 7th team consisted of Alan, 2 Gulliver brothers and members of the Freya Familia. Teams 5 and 6 would lead the attacks, while Team 7 would hold the area around the 12th floor entrance. Several Freya executives and additional support members would be ready for backup duty outside the 12th floor entrance. The Xenos would attack from the 18th floor while traveling up to meet the teams at the 12th floor entrance. Start of attack. With the launch of the operation, Team 1 led by Finn and Team 2 led by Gareth entered the Knossos. Close behind were Team 3 and Team 4. Despite the previous operation, there was still a large number of Evolus in the Knossos. Evolus members were using suicide attacks, violas, and various monsters to battle the attacking teams. Even worse, Evolus members used cursed weapons to inflict an unhealable curse on some team members. Fortunately, Ermid went along with Finn's lead team and used Dia Frattle to continuously heal the cursed members. After a couple hours, Finn's Team 1 and Gareth's Team 2 both reached the 5th floor. Following the plan, they were able to draw a lot of the defenders towards them to make the critical floors less well guarded. Second stage of attack. After Finn and Gareth both reported reaching the 5th floor, the attack from the 12th floor and the 18th floor commenced. On the 12th floor, AIS, Bell, and Otter led the 5th team into the Knossos using their copy of the Daedalus Orb. Reveria and Beat then followed with the 6th team in another direction. However, Reveria soon sensed Revis using the magic circles of Rhea Levitine. With Revis being so dangerous and one of their 2 primary targets, Team 5 circled back towards Team 6 to encircle Revis. On the 18th floor, Fells and the Xenos entered the Knossos. With the intense fighting near the surface, there were minimal defenders. Thus they made quick progress up the 15th floor with only monsters to battle along the way. In the Knossos control room, Barca monitored the progress of the attack teams and was worried about the fast progress of the attack teams, which had already reached the 7th floor and the 8th floor. Realizing it was time to use his huge trap, he walked to a circular room with a self-destruct control. The trap involved used a similar mechanism for opening doors to collapse a floor by removing its support pillars. His plan was to collapse the entire 7th floor when attackers reached the 8th floor. With the Hummy's Familia, however, before Barca could activate the self-destruct control, Asfi attacked him and forced him away from the device. Furthermore, other Hummy's Familia members removed their Hades hats that made them visible. When Barca asked them how they knew so much, it turned out that they were able to force an Evolus member to talk using Truth Serum. Furthermore, Lulian picked up Barca's copy of Daedalus Journal, which the captured member indicated would make a fast attack possible. Barca finally realized that Finn's group was the decoy for sneaking in Hermes' Familia to take over the control room. While they disabled the self-destruct mechanism, Lulian read through the journal to discover the location of the 6 demi-spirits on the 10th floor and the Evolus base on the 9th floor. That information was immediately relayed to all the teams via Oculus devices. With Finn's group, having received the information from Lulian, Finn dispersed his group to encircle the enemy on the 9th floor. He was surprised to hear that the 6 jewel fetuses were already transformed because it may not be simple to get the demi-spirits to the surface. With Gareth's group, Gareth's Team 2 also reached the 9th floor. They were also dispersing to encircle the enemy. With Bell, AIS, and Otter, when Team 5 reached Team 6, they started chasing after Revis' location using Reveria's detection ability. While most defenders had gone to the higher floors to assist with the attacks from the surface, they still had to get through large numbers of violas and other monsters. With Fells and the Xenos continued to make good progress up the Knossos. They have now reached the 13th floor. In the control room, while the Hermes Familia was busy defeating the self-destruct and communicating with other groups, Barca became devastated with his plans destroyed. At that point, Finn, Ray, Tyon, Ermid, and a few others arrived at the control room to interrogate Barca. To protect Knossos, Barca suddenly stabbed himself with a cursed sword many times, turning his blood black. Then he pressed a spare jewel fetus against his chest to transform into a hideous human demi-spirit. The black veins on Barca's right arm burst, spraying black blood on whoever that was close by. In the Thanatos Familia room, in a different location on the 9th floor, Thanatos told Ein that it was time to unleash the demi-spirits, but Ein replied that Ennio had another plan and that Thanatos would be sacrificed. After Ein left, Thanatos started laughing out loud, realizing he had been used. With Gareth's group, Gareth had Lefia continue to search for Ein using the magic circles of Lefia's Rhea Levitine. Somehow, Dionysus became separated from his bodyguard Filvis. With AIS, Bell and Otter, as Bell's group and Reveria's group encircled Revis' location, Haraheim used Yukaide no Kazuchi to boost the level of Otter, Bell, and AIS. Soon their group finally caught up with Revis, who was at the other side of a large room. Seeing Revis, Bell went straight to charging Argonaut with no limit. At the same time, Otter and AIS charged towards Revis. Transformations. In the control room, the black veins on Barca's right arm sprayed black blood on whoever that was close by. Fortunately, Ermid was with the group, and she proceeded to heal those affected by the blood. However, everyone was then targeted again by the curse spray, requiring more healing. This kept repeating until Finn led a charge from one side while Tyon attacked from the other side. With AIS, Bell, and Otter, Bell had charged Argonaut for about 2 minutes, and the grand bell continued to ring while bright white particles surrounded Bell and his 2 black blades. Seeing Revis, AIS followed Otter's advice and viewed Revis as a monster. AIS then activated Ariel and Avenger to create Black Wind, causing Bell and Otter to both take notice. As Otter and AIS charged towards Revis in the large room, Revis retreated only to find that another entrance was blocked by Reveria and her group. Though she was stronger, she could not try to force her way through, which would allow AIS and Otter to catch up. Thus she headed for another entrance. In the control room, everyone struggled to fight the Bastard demi-spirit. It was able to attack them with many arms, spray them with more curse showers, and also regenerate. Even worse, the blood that missed the target turned into a miasma, which made many cough up blood. Analyzing the situation, Ermid realized that she must stop the chain of curses by stopping it at the source. Ermid then shocked everyone when she cast Dia Fratel on the Basa demi-spirit. Basa suffered intense pain from Ermid's magic, and in return used miasma to attack Ermid, causing her intense pain. At the end, Ermid won, removing Basa's curse. While healers used their remaining potions to treat Ermid, Tyon chopped off Basa's arms, only to discover that he was already dead. In the Thanatos Familia room, as Thanatos sensed that Basa had passed, Loki walked into the room telling him to give up. Seeing Gareth and others entered with Loki, he was clearly surrounded. When asked, he said he was not Ennio. And then he told Loki what he previously told Lefia, and that Ennio never considered the Knossos as a fortress but as an altar for a sacrifice. Realizing the mission has been far too easy, Loki thought about the altar and realized they may have been played, though she could not quite connect the dots. Thanatos then asked Loki whether she was the only god in the attacking group, which made everyone suddenly realize that Dionysus was missing. Thus Loki immediately called out to Dionysus using her oculus. Through his oculus, Dionysus then apologized for going on his own without telling anyone. Dionysus continued to say that he will get his revenge for his members that were murdered, despite Loki's pleas to stop. On the 12th floor, Bell was more than 3 minutes into his Argonaut charging, with the grand bells ringing continuing to encourage everyone in their battles. As Otter and AIS chased Revis, the Xenos entered the final entrance to the room with Asturias leading the way. Forced to retreat once again, Revis was attacked by AIS and Otter. AIS badly damaged Revis' left leg while Otter chopped off her right arm. Cornered, the regenerating Revis took out a jewel fetus and pushed it against her chest. Darkness, in the Thanatos Familia room, while Loki was talking to Dionysus, Ein appeared with many monsters, forcing the adventurers to battle the Violas and other monsters. At the same time, Loki continued to scream at Dionysus to stop via the oculus. However, she started hearing Dionysus talking to someone. As Loki called out his name, he simply apologized to her again. Shortly after, a pillar of light broke through the ground and shot into the sky, catching the attention of all in the Knossos and in Ororio. Lefia then noticed that Filvis and the other Dionysus members seeming to lose their power. Seeing Lefia's realization, Ein informed her that a god just returned to heaven. Filvis then attacked Ein with a fury that Lefia had not seen, but was easily captured as she seemed to have lost all her speed and power. On the 10th floor, with the pillar of light, the trigger was pulled. The 6 demi-spirits then started singing and became connected to each other via a ring of light along the hallways. The demi-spirits then expanded and green flesh began to overflow from their bodies across the Knossos at an incredible rate. The green meat absorbed anyone that it came contact with and turned the Knossos into a giant vase of green meat. On the 12th floor, when Bell's charging past 4 minutes, Revis had just pressed a jewel fetus against her chest. Immediately, Revis turned into a hideous demi-spirit that resembled the Basa demi-spirit except it was green instead of black. Otter tried to attack the transformed Revis but after some fighting, was slammed against the wall by one of several large tentacles of the Revis demi-spirit. Seeing Revis' horrid transformation, AIS then launched an aerial attack with black wind that blew a hole through the monster. However, the Revis demi-spirit quickly regenerated after the attack. At the same time, Reveria started chanting Ria Levitine to attack the monster. Being unsuccessful the first time with the black wind, the black flames in AIS was burning like the fires of hell. That caused her to succumb completely to the black flames as she gathered the black wind for a second attack. The black aura around AIS was noticed by all, but no one was in a position to stop AIS from using her ultimate attack. Suddenly, green meat also started pouring into the large room, further providing the Revis demi-spirit with a green armor layer and green spikes on the tentacles. With the green meat taking over the area, most of the attacking force was forced to retreat towards the 12th floor entrance. However, Bell continued to charge and was soon finished at 5 minutes. Fully charged, he launched an enormous firebolt attack at the Revis demi-spirit through his 2 twin blades that were shining a brilliant white. At the same time, AIS launched her Black Wind aerial attack while Reveria also launched Rhea Levitine. Thus it was a swirl of black and white with fire added on top. The 3 enormous magics converged at the Revis demi-spirit, causing tremendous destruction, consuming the monster, melting the walls and floor of the area. After firing off the Black Wind attack, AIS also completely lost control of herself, having succumbed to the black flames. As she screamed out of control, Bell, Reveria, and Otter tried to grab the Dark AIS and escape from the large room. Nightmare, in the Thanatos Familia room, after Ein and the Violas captured Filvis, he quickly snapped her neck before she was torn apart by the Violas. Seeing her soulmate torn apart, Lefia screamed in horror but was powerless to act. At the same time, Thanatos explained to Loki that a god being sent back to heaven was the catalyst and trigger for the altar. That confused Loki, who shouted at Thanatos to explain himself. Meanwhile, despite their attempt to stop the flow of the green meat, the room was quickly filling up with the stuff. With Finn's group. With the green meat also filling up the control room, Finn and his group raced to find Loki, who was in the Thanatos Familia room with Thanatos and Gareth's group. When they finally found Loki, the problem was that there was no escape from the room as all the entrances were overflowing with green meat. At that point, Thanatos decided that he was not going to be Enio's pawn. Instead, to spite Enio, he stabbed himself with a sword. Thus Thanatos' pillar of light opened up an escape path for Finn, Loki, and everyone in the room. Quickly, the adventurers jumped up through the hole opened up by Thanatos, but they were unable to help the Dionyse members who had all lost their power. To save Loki, Finn threw Loki up to Tyon, before fighting off another monster. As it looked like Finn would be absorbed by the green meat, Finn was instead saved by Ray, who was looking to assist victims. Surprised by being saved, Finn thanked Ray as she lifted him to safety. Unfortunately, there was insufficient time to save the helpless Dionyse members as the green meat absorbed everything in its way. At the Dedeus entrance area, as they escaped back to the surface, the green meat followed them, forming a cap to seal whatever was going on in the Knossos. After a quick count, all the team members from teams 1 to 4 survived except for Dionyse and his Familia. Nevertheless, Finn's thumb was throbbing. That made him worry about what was going on inside the Knossos, as well as what happened to the other teams. During all this time, Finn, Loki, and his team members constantly replayed in their minds the horror of all the Dionyse members drowning in the sea of green meat. Loki was furious with herself after having to swallow the most devastating defeat in the history of her Familia and the complete destruction of an alliance Familia. Furthermore, Lefia was in a catatonic state and had to be carried. Once they reached the surface, Loki immediately had Lefia brought back to the Twilight Manor. On the 12th floor of the Knossos, the 3 magics incinerated the Revis demi-spirit while melting the walls and floor of the room. While Bell and Otter were glad to see the monster's magic stone shatter, they had much bigger problems at the moment. AIS was screaming in pain and anguish as the black flames took over, causing a dark black aura. However, with green meat rapidly filling the Knossos, they had no choice but drag dark AIS to the dungeon. On the 12th floor of the dungeon, once back across to the dungeon side, they also did a quick count. Everyone, including the Xenos, was able to escape. However, Dark AIS was completely out of her mind, screaming and in a lot of pain. Reveria and Bell looked at her but did not know what to do. Reveria tried to explain to Bell, who was in tears. Reveria, Bell, AIS always had a dark side to her that drove her to get better and better when she was younger. Only in the last few years did she started to smile more when Tiona, Tyon, and Lefia joined the Familia. Bell, how could that be, Lady Reveria? Reveria, AIS has a past that is very sad. Maybe she will tell you when she gets better, but she still is not able to tell Tiona, Tyon, and Lefia. Even as they spoke, the aura around AIS was getting darker and darker. Inside, the black flames were taking over her personality, driving mini AIS to tears. Thus, they rushed AIS back toward the surface as Bell gave her a princess carry. But the aura just getting worse and worse. Emergency. About an hour later, everyone rushed AIS to Airmid's hospital. Inside a private room, Ahmed examined AIS for a long time before coming out to update everyone on Ai's condition. Ahmed, I tested for everything, but there is no injury, no curse, nothing physical whatsoever. Whatever it is in her mind. There is nothing I can do after Ahmed. Reveria tried to calm AIS by repeating how much she cared about AIS, how everyone cared about AIS, and how AIS has a family who loves her. However, there was no visible improvement. In fact, the aura continued to get worse. Reveria was really scared about what this was evolving into. While everyone else were waiting outside for Reveria, Loki was deep in thought. Loki, Raoul, I want you to fetch Freya here as soon as possible. I am afraid the damage could be irreversible if something is not done soon. Raoul, hike. Loki to everyone, all right. There is no way I will allow AIS to suffer like this, even if I need to go back to heaven. Do you understand me? Finn, Loki, let's not do anything hasty. Loki, I will not do anything hasty, but it may be incurable by any conventional method if it is what I am worried it is. Loki then went in to talk to AIS, but her talk also did not yield any improvement. A short while later, Reveria and Loki walked out of the room together looking completely depressed. With that, everyone went together to check on AIS. Worried Bell, she seems to be getting worse. Sad Reveria, we need to try to calm her anger. But my talk did not work. Neither was Loki able to do anything, as she held onto Ari's hands. Worried Bell, but what can be done? Reveria, well, the biggest positive changes in AIS was actually brought on by you. When she first met you, when you ran from her, all those things actually had a big and positive impact on her. Reveria looking frustrated. Bell, I think it is up to you now. Bell, but what am I going to do? At that time, Freya walked in. Little one, you may need to use the new skill you got. Bell, but what do I do? Freya, you need to calm her hot flames. Use that skill to make her feel wanted and loved. I cannot give you any more advice, but follow what your skill tells you, Bell. Loki, Bell, do the best you can. Do whatever you need to do. I will support you. Please succeed. If you fail, I will need to go back to heaven. Bell, Lady Loki, I will do everything in my power. Reveria, Bell, you love her. Put out the angry flame. Whatever you do or try, we will support you. Bell, yes, Lady Reveria. I will try my very, very best. I promise. With that, everyone else left the room, closed and locked the door behind Bell and AIS. Loki to Freya, if I need to go back to heaven, you will take good care of my children. Freya, don't worry about that now. If it comes to it, they will of course be well taken care of. Loki, Freya, what is this new skill you are talking about? Freya pulls Loki off to the side, then whispered in her ears. Freya, it is a unique skill that I have never seen before called Love. Loki faints. Waiting, seeing Loki fainted, Finn went to help her off of Freya and carried her to a couch. No one heard what Freya said, but whatever she said, it was a shocker. Everyone waited outside for Bell. They heard the same screams and anguished cries. That continued. Minutes went by, an hour went by, but the screams and cries continued. Then all of the sudden, the noise went away. It was quiet. Their curiosity was overwhelming, but their self-control won out. They continued to wait for Bell to come outside. He did not. More time went by again, minutes, another hour. Trying to keep everyone from going crazy. Finn started talking about the Knossos and what had to be done. At the same time, they would also need to check on the catatonic Lefia. It was a disaster all around. First, they received a report about the green meat. Apparently, it continued to seal the opening to the Knossos, but it did not further spread either. Nobody could figure out what was going on inside. Second, they discussed the mural of Nidhogg that they saw. Finn also remarked that the 6 women in the mural matched the number of demi-spirits connected by the Ring of Light. Third, Loki brought up the issue of what they discovered in Diony's wine cellar. She ordered Raoul and Anakitty to get Hermes and go investigate the Demeter family home. At that point, Freya redirected the conversation back to the power of the enemy. Freya Otter said the Revis demi-spirit was beyond a level 7 monster. Can there be more of the same? Finn, there is another figure, Ein, whose face is always behind a mask. We just do not know how many dual fetus there are. Finn, this green meat is strange and it attacks on its own. Loki, it seems the 2 gods' power and the dead adventurers were harvested to create something horrible. Reveria, we should send scout parties to investigate what they can. Raoul, the Ganesha Familia continue to watch the areas by the entrances. Finn, we need to send a party to monitor the 12th floor entrance and the 18th floor entrance. 2 hours later, Raoul and Anakitty reported back. Raoul, we went to the Demeter Familia home. It was completely empty. Except in the basement, there was a smell of blood with a message written in blood, "Become extinct, Aura Rio. I will open the path to the underworld." Apparently from Ennio Anakiti, Hermes thinks there is a Demeter Familia hideout in the Beol Mountains to the north. Loki, go investigate with the Hermes Familia. It feels like we are being led to a conclusion. They talked for about another 10 minutes. As they were wrapping up, Bell opened the door. Coming outside, Bell was unable to look Loki, Reveria, or Freya in their eyes. Bell looking down, AIS is more stable now. But the problem persists. Reveria, what do we do now? Bell looking down, I am not sure. I cannot do any more at this time. I will continue tomorrow. Bell did not seem to want to talk about what happened. No one dared to ask for details. Loki did not want to know any details. With Bell exhausted, Ermid led him to a spare room in the hospital to sleep. Afterwards, they went to check on AIS. Bell said the problem was still there, but at least she was no longer screaming in pain and anguish. They were not sure if she was sleeping or unconscious, but they would leave that until the next day. But the dark aura persisted. With that, everyone went home to sleep with Bell, Loki and Reveria staying in spare rooms at the hospital overnight. Before leaving, Freya checked on Bell. Freya did give Bell an update showing a shocking jump in magic stats: level 5 strength, 86 endurance, 81 agility, 93 dexterity, 79 magic, 351 skill, Argonaut, Oxslayer, love magic, firebolt development ability, luck, abnormal resistance, escape, magic resistance. Back at the Twilight Manor, Finn, Tyon, Tiona, and Gareth checked on Lefia. But she was completely unresponsive to anyone. She just sat there in a complete daze. With no choice, Tiona changed Lefia to her sleeping clothes and put her to bed. The next morning. Bell slept well as the use of his skill completely exhausted him. After waking up, he went to check on AIS in her patient room. Loki and Reveria were already there. Loki, Bell, was AIS responsive yesterday? Bell, she was conscious for a short time. She was very confused and talked about the black flames. With that, Loki took Bell and Reveria outside the room. Loki, Bell, I will tell you a little about Ari's past, as you need to know. Loki first, she is Albert's daughter. Bell stayed calm. I did suspect there was something about Wallenstein and Waldstein. Loki, I will not tell you anything about how she came to the Loki Familia. But the second key fact is that AIS has spirit blood. Bell, well, that would explain her strong wind. Is that related to the great wind spirit Arya? Loki, yes, Arya is her mother. And AIS wants to save her from the OEBD somehow. Bell, I see. So that is why she wants to get strong so badly. Loki, also, have you heard about the corrupted spirit? Bell, a little but not much. Loki, spirits used to protect civilization. But as they were injured in battle, somehow they became corrupted. We believe a major spirit was corrupted and is the source of the jewel fetus and the demi-spirits. That corrupted spirit is probably very deep in the dungeon. Bell, I see. How is AIS linked to the corrupted spirit? Loki, I am afraid that AIS may be being corrupted by her traumatic experience and her history. Those linked to the corrupted spirits can feel Ai's presence. Reveria, you should remember the demi-spirit called out to Arya. Thought she was her mother. Bell, OMG, I understand. I will do whatever I can. Loki, remember these facts when you try to save her. Bell, I understand. This information does help me. At that time, Finn, Tiona, Tyon, and Gareth returned. Finn, Lefia is in a state not much different than AIS. Loki, OMG. Reveria, Bell, we may be asking you to help Lefia also. Bell, I understand. I will spend time with AIS now, and then I will go to the Twilight Manor afterwards. Finn, no need. We are bringing Lefia here. Save your time, strength, and energy. At that time, Lily, Haraheim, and Welf came by to visit Bell. Welf, hey man, how are you doing? I heard you took down one big monster. Bell, yes, we did it together, but AIS is not doing well. Lily, we are sorry to see you sad. Bell Sama, Bell, thank you. Lily, Haraheim, Bell Sama, we brought some potato snacks for you. That gave Bell an idea, as potato snacks are Ai's favorite. After talking to Loki and Finn, they agreed to Bell's suggestion. Bell then had his private time with AIS. Everyone just waited outside again as the session continued. After about an hour or so, they thought they heard AIS sobbing, but were not totally sure. Another hour later, Bell came outside with his face all red. It took a few minutes to collect himself. Bell looking down, she is stable right now. I still don't know how to get rid of the problem. I will try more later this afternoon. At that point, a short goddess with twin ponytails and a lot of cooking equipment came into the hospital. Finn and Raoul were helping her with all the cooking equipment. Seeing that his requested equipment had arrived, Bell asked them to set up the cooking equipment right next to Ai's door. After a short while, the potato snacks were cooking, creating a wonderful aroma. When the first ones were ready, Bell took some freshly cooked snacks into Ai's room. A few minutes later, Bell came outside looking a bit happier. Bell, she woke up with the smell and ate something. She is sleeping again. That brought some optimism to the group, though they realized the fundamental problem was not solved. Reveria, Bell, do you think you can try to spend a little time with Lefia? Bell, yes, I will go in now. After Bell went into Lefia's room, they locked up and waited for any response. Minutes went by, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, and an hour passed. Still no response from inside. Another 10 minutes later, there was a loud scream of "Ahhhhhhhh. What are you doing?" Then it was all quiet again. Tiona, that was Lefia, but it is quiet again. Reveria, well, he is definitely having an effect. Tiona, what is Argonaut doing? I want to try it. Earning a whack on the head with Reveria's staff. About half an hour later, there were a lot of crying sounds for a while, but then it was quiet again. Another half hour later, Bell came out really red in the face. Bell looking down, I believe Lefia will be able to respond to you again. I believe her difficult situation has passed. Really happy, everyone went inside. Reveria, Lefia, are you all right? It was hard for Lefia to talk, but she simply said yes with tears in her eyes. They all went to hug her. Loki, are you hungry? Lefia was hungry, so they also got her some potato snacks. All this time, Bell and Lefia were really red in the face and unable to look at each other. Seeing the strange mood between the two, no one asked about it, even Tiona. They were just happy that it worked, whatever Bell had to do. Endurance while Lefia ate her snacks. Bell was totally exhausted and was sent off to bed. After Bell left, Loki sent someone to fetch Loki to check on Bell. Then all the girls hugged Lefia while she continued to cry. Lefia crying, she was killed right in front of me. Lefia sob, I was too weak. I could not protect her. I could do nothing. Lefia sob, it is not fair. He killed her in total cold blood. That monster Loki, we will avenge her. Tiona, I will cut him down. Don't you worry, as least Lefia could talk after Bell's help, so that was a relief. An hour later, Freya arrived. Seeing Bell's goddess, Loki went to talk to her. Loki, that love skill seems to exhaust Bell completely. He was able to stabilize AIS and unlock Lefia from her state. We need more to help AIS. Freya, I have never seen that skill before. I don't know how it works. I don't know how to ask Bell about it. Loki, I will ask Lefia about it. Wait for me. Freya, no, wait for me. I will check on Bell and check his status. Let's see whether there is anything strange. In Bell's room, Freya walked into Bell's room as he just woke up. Freya gave Bell the update, and the endurance stat took a huge jump. It increased by more than 120 points. Level 5 strength, 87 endurance, 203 agility, 93 dexterity, 79 magic, 351 skill, Argonaut, Ox Slayer, Love Magic, Firebolt development ability, Luck, Abnormal resistance, Escape, Magic resistance. Not wanting to pry in what was going on, Freya did not ask for details. Freya, little one, your endurance stat took a huge jump. It must use a lot of energy. Why don't you go rest some more before going to AIS? Bell, alright goddess. In Loki's room at the hospital, after the update, Freya went in and closed the door. Freya, something is different. His endurance stats went up 120 points in the last 2 days. There has been no battle or physical exertion we know of. Loki, well, that is odd. Freya, even if they were doing that, he is not going to gain 120 points in 2 days. Loki, there has been more to it than that. Good grief, Loki, now let us see what Lefia is willing to tell us. In Lefia's room, Loki, Bell is very tired. It may be embarrassing, but can you tell me a little bit about how he helped you? Lefia turned bright red. It is hard to talk about it. Loki, it is important. Bell is helping AIS also, but it is not working as well. We need to help Bell help AIS. Lefia steeled herself and collected her thoughts. Thinking about it is very embarrassing. He made me totally trust him. He has a way of having me open up. I told him everything and he told me everything. He knows all my secrets and I know all his secrets. He knows all my deep dark feelings and I know all his deep dark feelings. It is so embarrassing that I cannot even face him right now. Loki, why does he get so tired? He looked like he was mind down. Lefia. Loki, I will ask it another way. Bell gained 120 points in endurance in the last 2 years and there was no physical battle. Lefia looked down. Well, part of it is physical intimacy. Loki's eyes open up wide. Even if there was total intimacy for 2 days continuously, he would not gain 120 points in endurance in 2 days. Lefia was tomato red. Lefia covered her face with her hands. He made me feeling really close to him. And his hands made me totally relaxed. It was like some type of dream state. I felt loved. I felt he cared a lot. It was really special Loki, but it was not magic. His magic stats did not go up. Lefia covered face with the pillow. Goddess, it was so special I don't think I can get a husband. Loki eyes opened even wider. Well, maybe we can talk about it some more later. Having pushed Lefia hard for answers, Loki allowed her to rest and relax. In Loki room in hospital, Loki to Freya. Well, that was special Freya. What has my little one turned into? Loki apparently a total lady killer. Freya smiled. Did he? Loki not sure, but they seems like some type of dream state. How exactly is that love? She did not explain. Somehow his hands made her totally relaxed. Not sure which happened first. But magic stats did not go up, so it is a strange skill Freya. Is that all? How does it improve the mental condition? Loki apparently the dreamlike relaxed state makes the two people share all secrets and feelings. Freya well, that part makes some sense. So the sharing of secrets and feelings reduces the strain and pain. Loki, yes that part makes sense. Loki oh, Lefia said she cannot get a husband anymore. Freya eyes became wide open. Was it that? Loki I am not sure. But it could be that, or something else like the sharing of feelings or both Loki, but it does not work well enough for AIS. He has only stabilized her but not cure her of the problem Freya. The question is whether they are sharing enough or is the damage too deep that sharing and understanding are not enough. Loki wait. Bell was not aware of AIS being Albert's daughter or that Arya being Ai's mother or how AIS came to my Familia. Freya, that means his skill did not get very far. Loki. Yes, the only thing he mentioned to me was the black flames and lots of confusion. Freya, so either that was the focus so they did not get to the other stuff or Bell did not get deep enough. Loki, that is what we can ask Bell. Asking him about the physical part will get us nowhere. Freya, as much as it pains me to say, I need to give my little one his privacy there. Loki, what about your charm power? Freya, I cannot give that to Bell. Loki if Bell's love skill cannot get deep enough, I wonder if your charm and Bell's love can be used at the same time somehow. Freya, I would need to understand Bell's skill better. Loki wiggled her eyebrows. Freya smiled. I guess I have a need to know now. Loki, yes you do. And Bell would definitely agree because it is needed to save AIS. Loki smirked. And you are welcome Freya. What is discussed in this room stays in this room. Loki agreed. The two goddesses smiled deviously. Wow, it has been a crazy week or so. Took visitors from Asia all over Los Angeles. Still recovering. An hour later, Bell had enough rest, and he went to spend time with AIS. With freshly cooked potato snacks, he went in the room and closed the door. Crying and sobs could also be behind the doors, but everyone just stayed away not wanting to imagine what was going on inside. The next day, after having convinced Lefia to get revenge for Filvis, Tiona and Tyon took Lefia to the Gnome Library to read into Nidhogg. They were determined to dig into everything Nidhogg. Back at the hospital, Bell gave AIS another treatment. He was able to keep AIS stable. There were still lots of crying and sobs, but still was unable to solve the fundamental problem. That afternoon, Lefia and the Amazon twins returned to the hospital, but were unable to find any information about Nidhogg at the library. They ran into Bell when they returned. Remember Bell's love for fairy tales, Tiona decided to ask Bell about what he knew about Nidhogg. They were surprised with Bell's answer. Bell, I remember that 6 great spirits gave their lives to kill Nidhogg. Tiona, wow, how did you know that? Bell, my grandfather's fairy tale books. Tyon, your grandfather wrote them. Bell, yes, but I think he is just retelling these stories. Tiona, do you know any more details? Bell, I believe the great spirits trapped the Nidhogg using a strong barrier. They then used a secret art that destroyed it. But that is all I know. Satisfied, the girls reported this to Loki. Loki, Bell knew this? How? Tyon, he said his grandfather wrote fairy tales that talked about it. Loki, interesting grandfather. Tiona, Bell told me before that his grandfather died. Loki, well, the secret art he spoke about is known as the Door of Heaven. So that means putting spirits along a magic circle that uses them as a circuit. That is used to summon a heavenly pillar that is almost as strong as an arcanum. Tyon, really? Loki, yes, that is the same number of demi-spirits in the Kossos we are aware of. A heavenly pillar would definitely be able to totally and completely destroy Ororio. Everyone, so Ennio is going to use this secret art to completely destroy Ororio and allow monsters to roam on the surface again. At the end of the conversation, There was suddenly communication from Anakitty from the Bell Mountains. Apparently, they had found Demeter and she told them something really important. After that conversation, Loki had a private conversation with Lefia in her room, which caused loud screams from Lefia. Lefia came out of the room determined to fight, and requested that Loki level her to level 4. After leveling Lefia, Loki then had a private conversation with Freya, and they agreed that the Knossos situation could not wait. Thus, they would have to invade the Knossos without help from AIS, who will have to stay in the hospital. However, Loki told Freya that Hermes had set several strategies into motion before leaving for the Bell Mountains. At the Knossos, an alliance of familiars started to enter the Knossos with the assistance of the Xenos. There were 6 separate squadrons of Freya, Loki, Hephaestus, Hermes, Ganesha, and even Kali members led by executives of the Loki Familia and Freya Familia. Team 1 was led by Finn, Tyon, Ray, and Ilta. Team 2 by Reveria, Tiona, and Tsubaki. Team 3 by Gareth, Shakti as well as Arjana and Bake of the Kali Familia. Team 4 by Otter, the Gulliver brothers, Bell and Welf. Team 5 by Alan, Haydeen, and Hogni. Team 6 consisted of the Xenos and Fells. The rearguard included Lefia, Ryu, Haraheim, Tamers, Huluan, Aisha, Lily, Esfi, and a large number of Amazons who accompanied Loki and Freya. Loki and Freya also had Mia Grand and Beat as their personal guards. A hostage rescue team was led by Raoul, Alicia, and Loki Familia members. Using flags made of spirit items, they were able to counter the green flesh and penetrated deep into the Knossos. The 6 main teams reached the Demi-Spirit's room on the 10th floor and were shocked to find spirit altars that were huge pillars of green flesh more than 50 meters high with large flowers and tentacles. Near their bases were 3 huge faces consisting of a happy face, an angry face, and a sad face. Apparently, the Demi-Spirits had parasitized a Grand Treant, an enormous tree monster. As each team battled a spirit altar, the fight was very difficult. Most teams were having more trouble with the spirit altars, as each face was able to attack with a different magic. Nevertheless, Otter and Bell were having a lot more success as Welf was able to use Will-O-Wisp to constantly stop the spirit altar's magic use. As the battle continued, the hostage rescue team located members of the Demeter Familia and also discovered a huge black dragon that was starting to activate. The activation was apparently fed by the powers of the 6 spirit altars that were turning black with cracks showing crimson light inside. When this was reported to Loki and Freya, they immediately realized that the enemy was trying to bring Nidhogg back as the Nidhogg Demi-Spirit using the powers of the 6 Demi-Spirits. With no one else available to fight, Finn sent Ray to carry Bell to the room with the Nidhogg Demi-Spirit. While the grand bell rang, Raoul and his team's members protected Bell as he charged. Bell's grand bell strengthened the morale of all the adventurers. That helped all 6 teams gain the upper hand over their spirit altars. However, Ein started to attack the rear guard and dropped the first half of the group onto the 12th floor using a pitfall trap. Beat jumped in after them but was unable to return when the pitfall trap door closed. Thus Beat, Lefia, Ryu, Aisha, Haraheim, Esfi and the group of Amazons were faced with Ein and a large group of monsters. As Beat, Ryu, Aisha and Esfi battled the Violers and other monsters, Lefia had something to say to Ein. Angry Lefia, Filvis, why did you break my heart? Ein. The remaining members of the rearguard including Mia, Tamers, Lily and Huluan continued to protect Loki and Freya. As Lily assisted Finn in relaying commands over the various teams, the group headed towards the location that Dionyse was thought to have been killed. There, they found Enio. Loki Dionyse, stop hiding behind that mask, you scum at that point. Freya smiled at the masked figure Loki called Dionyse. Victory, in the room with the Nidhogg Demi-Spirit. After 5 minutes of charging, Bell launched an enormous firebolt attack at the Nidhogg Demi-Spirit through his 2 twin blades. The brilliant white magic attack instantly killed the Nidhogg Demi-Spirit in one shot, leaving behind an enormous magic stone. Raoul immediately reported to all the teams that Bell had killed the Nidhogg Demi-Spirit. With Otter and Welf, with Welf's continued magic disruption, Otter finished off the Demi-Spirit. He then sent Welf and the Gulliver brothers to assist Finn's group while he headed for Alan's group. With Finn's group already had gained an advantage, and Welf's magic disruption then really helped. Finn and Tyon soon killed off their Demi-Spirit. Tyon, Welf and the Gulliver brothers headed to assist Gareth's group, while Finn went to check on Loki and Freya. With Alan's group, with Otter's arrival, the Freya executives quickly defeated with Alan's speed and Otter's strength. With the Demi-Spirit finished off, Otter then headed to check on Freya as the other executives went to assist Reveria's group. With the Xenos and Fells, while the Grand Bell made Asturias want to fight his rival, Fells and his fellow Xenos convinced him to continue the battle. They soon then destroyed their demi-spirit also. With Gareth's group, the demi-spirit was giving them a good fight, but Welf's magic disruption again made a huge difference. That allowed Gareth, Tyon, Arjana, and Bake to take out the three faces, and then the demi-spirit. With Reveria's group, with Alan and the other Freya executives joining the battle, Reveria was able to launch Winfimbul Vita at the demi-spirit. After which, the Alan and Tiona jumped in and shattered the frozen monster into small pieces. In the room with Filvis, Lefia, and others, Beat, Ryu, Aisha, Asfi and the group of Amazons were battling with a large number of monsters while Filvis talked to Ain. To assist the fight, Haraheim had boosted Beat, Ryu, Aisha, and Asfi. Angry Lefia Filvis, why did you break my heart? Ain. Lefia then explained how she knew Filvis was Ain. At that point, Ain removed the mask showing Filvis underneath. Filvis, I did not want you to die, so I tricked you. Lefia, your so-called death devastated me. It took something ridiculous to save me. Filvis, that was the only way out. I did not know how else to protect you. At that point, the grand bell stopped ringing and they heard a loud explosion. With Raoul's report of Bell's success, Lefia offered Filvis another chance. Lefia, we know Dionysus Enio. Abandon this insane endeavor and your insane god who wants to bring the darkness back. Filvis then explained that she was no longer the same Filvis and that the corrupted spirit had turned her into a creature like Revis. Filvis then told Lefia that Dionysus is the only one who told her that he would still love her as a creature. Filvis, do you still think I am pure and beautiful? Pointing to a second Filvis. At that point, Filvis and a second Revis merged together to turn into the creature, showing Lefia Filvis creature's magic stone. Lefia. Filvis, see, I told you so. With Loki, Freya, and Dionysus, Freya smiled at Dionysus, which froze him. Loki smiled, I knew you would come in handy, Freya. Now Dionysus, you will tell us what you are doing under charm. Dionysus then told the two goddesses how much he hated Uranos for sealing the dungeon and how he missed the surface dwellers despairing over the monsters. He also confirmed what he wanted was not to destroy Aurorio, but to kill the adventurers who prevented the monsters from coming to the surface. And his plan was to form the Nidhogg demi-spirit, which used an unnamed dragon from the depths of the dungeon. Finally, the god who was killed was Peenia, and the former Dionysus adventurers were transferred to Peenia to fool the other gods. At that point, Loki could not stomach any more when she remembered Dionysus acting sad at the grave of his familiar members. She started beating up Dionysus and kicked him many times where it really hurts. The intense beating managed to snap Dionysus out of the charm. With his last opportunity, Dionysus grasped the blade he used before on Peenia on himself to avoid the humiliation of capture. With that pillar of light, everyone knew something big happened. By that point, Finn and Otter arrived, as well as Bell, who was carried by Ray. As the teams have all done their jobs, Filvis was the remaining matter. The allied Familia members then converged on Lefia and Filvis. Surrounded, Filvis knew she had no options, especially after losing a lot of power when Dionysus returning to heaven. Lefia, Filvis, please surrender. You still have a choice. Don't throw everything away. Filvis, I don't have any choice now, do I? Filvis then gave herself up, and everyone went back to the surface together. Filvis was delivered by Shakti, Lefia, Finn and Reveria to the guild with her hands binded together. The interrogation would start the next day. With the mission totally successful, Bell went back to the hospital with Loki and Freya to check on AIS. Bell was tired from the use of Grand Bell Argonaut, so Freya gave him 2 small kisses on the cheek to congratulate him on the victory. And then Bell was ordered to sleep after some potions and an update of his stats that looked like a mage. After Bell woke up, Loki and Freya told Bell that they need to have a talk about AIS. Freya, little one, I know you want to help AIS. Level 5 strength, 121 endurance, 289 agility, 134 dexterity, 115 magic, 650 skill, Argonaut, Ox Slayer, Love Magic, Firebolt development ability, Luck, Abnormal resistance, Escape, Magic resistance. Charming. With the Knossos mission totally successful, Loki and Freya went to talk to Bell about AIS. Freya, little one, I know you want to help AIS. Bell, yes I do. Loki, has AIS told you much more in the last few sessions? Bell, not really. She is too focused on the black flames. I am able to help her feel a little better, but the thought of those black flames seems like it is still overwhelming her. Loki, do you think she will be stable and safe? Bell, I am not sure. I am able to keep her stable for now. I do know that more fighting will make it worse. Loki, well, she is definitely not going into battle anytime soon. Bell, yes, that would be good. Worried Loki, what do you think she would do if the dark powers get stronger? Could they take over her mind? Bell, I am afraid to think. But it could well trigger all her powers and become more powerful. She could become very dangerous and hurt a lot of people. Said Loki, I see. So the Sword Princess may have to retire to keep her from going to the dark side, said Bell. That may be the case. Freya, little one, you are aware of my charm powers. Bell blushed. Yes, I am Freya. If I use my charm powers while you use your special powers, we may be able to make more progress and help AIS better. Bell blushed, but Freya, is something wrong? Bell, no. I want to help AIS. Loki, is it embarrassing? Bell, yes, it is very embarrassing. Freya, well, I need to be there to help her. I need to see her eye to eye. Bell, I understand. Loki, all right. Bell, you have my approval to do whatever you need. Please save her. Bell, Goddess Loki. I understand and will do my best. Loki, I will leave it in your hands and let you talk in private. Freya, for me to help, I need to understand more about your love skill. Freya, in particular, I need to know how you use it. Bell blushed like a tomato and started explaining, which made Freya's eyes opened wide. Charm and love. The embarrassed Bell explained his powers to Freya, who was surprised. Freya, well, little one, you know that I would have to be intimately involved with this. Bell looking down, Goddess, I respect you the most, so how can I ask you to be involved in such an outrage? Freya, that is fine. I want you to be happy and AIS is so very important to you. Bell bowed. Goddess, thank you for helping AIS and all your sacrifices. Freya, that is fine again. I will watch you first and then use my powers when it is the right time. They then walked over to Ari's room. Seeing Freya and Bell, Loki, Reveria, Lefia, the twins, Finn and others left to allow them the flexibility to do whatever they needed to do. After about 10 minutes, Ari's cries, screams and sobs could be heard. Suddenly, it got very quiet for a long time. Then, AIS sobbing, Bell, thank you. AIS sobbing, Goddess Freya, thank you. Then it was mostly quiet again, though it was obvious they were talking softly inside. Loki, Reveria, Lefia, the twins and the others were using all their self-control not to eavesdrop inside. After another 10 minutes. Loki, this is killing me. What is going on? Reveria, we need to let them try their best. Loki, well, at least this definitely sounds different, so there may be progress. Finn, Goddess, we must keep our cool and maintain our composure. We gave them the flexibility. We cannot change now. Sad Lefia, this is killing me too. Tiona, come on. Little Argonaut, another hour passed before Bell and Freya came outside. Freya announced AIS is awake. There has been progress, but she is not cured. Loki thanks Freya. Reveria and Finn bowed to Freya to thank her, as did Lefia and the twins. Freya, you can go to talk her now. She is significantly better. Freya then led everyone into the room. AIS was still in tears, but she was better when Freya gave her a lap pillow and stroked her hair. While that was a strange scene, no one thought much about it and was happy to see visible improvement. Loki, AIS, how are you feeling? AIS, the goddess and Bell helped me feel a lot better. I still have trouble focusing, but I can think more clearly now. Reveria, AIS, you have nothing to worry about other than getting better. We are your family and we are all behind you. AIS, thanks Mama. Shocked that she was called Mama by AIS, Reveria was speechless, as was Finn and Loki and everyone else. After a while, Bell took turns with Freya in giving AIS a lap pillow and petting her on the head. Nourished with love after talking to AIS as she received lap pillows from Freya and Bell, the Loki executives were relieved and smiles returned to their faces. As the children continued to talk, Freya and Loki left the room. Loki, you have a scary smile on your face. Freya smiled. I must admit, I am addicted melancholy. Loki, I am so jealous. Freya smiled. Yes, I can understand why. Loki, you are killing me, so spill it. Freya smiled. Spill what? Loki, what is this skill? How much fun did you have? Freya, as for your second question, I already said I am addicted, stabbing Loki in the heart. Freya continued, as for the skill, it is just as the name indicated. Love, the ability to share love with another. The more intense love the person has, the more love that is shared. Loki cut to the chase. How is said love shared? Freya, by words, by physical means, by passion, by intimacy with skin contact. Loki has a flying nosebleed. I am so jealous. That brought a rare laugh out of Freya. Freya, on to more serious matters. Your child has suffered terribly. I don't think she can adventure again. Sad Loki, that was what I was afraid to hear, but I now just hope that she can lead a normal life. Freya, so I will give you a bit more. Bell's love skill was not enough to get through to Ari's deep dark secrets. That is when I came in with charm to force her to open up. When she did a little, the love went in and conquered her. Loki with terrible visions of unspeakable things, those metaphors are killing me. Freya, the result is that we learned about how her parents died, and how much she suffered, how she became so intensely focused on killing monsters, on her hatred of monsters, on her hatred in the form of black flames that can consume her and the world. You do realize she will try to take her mother back even if the flames will consume her, Loki? Yes, I do. And after this, we cannot allow her to fight again. Freya, well, we will take the dragon and we will do it without her, Loki, as I feared. But I hope you can take the dragon without her help, Freya. I think we will, but that is for the future. For now, AIS must retire, at least until her black flames are extinguished. These sessions must continue. The black flames are greatly reduced, but not extinguished. Loki, do you know more? Freya, yes, I can see the power of the black flames. Her power can grow exponentially with the hatred. Fortunately, Bell's love can control her hatred and nourish her with love. Loki, I understand. We saw that coming, but you have confirmed it. As they walked back towards Ari's room, Freya had some more. Freya whispered in Loki's ear with a smile, causing a massive nosebleed. Retirement. While walking back to Ari's room, Freya whispered something in Loki's ear, causing a large reaction. Loki quietly to Freya, you killed me, causing Freya to smile as they walked inside. Everyone was happily talking to AIS, who was clinging to Bell and Reveria, making the elf uncomfortably happy. Finn, well, it is good to see AIS able to talk to us. AIS, yes, I am sorry I worried everyone. Reveria in bliss, the result is worth it. Loki frowned. Mama, I don't think I have ever seen you so happy, making Reveria blush. Tiona, when can AIS go home? Loki, she is better but not cured, which made the mood in the room more depressed again. Lefia, what does that mean, Loki? Loki, exactly as I said. Freya and Bell were able to pull her out of the mess, but we cannot afford a relapse. I am going to be real strict about this. AIS, what about training? Loki, even training. We will take one tiny step at a time. We will take no chances. We almost lost you, Freya. Bell, you are exhausted, as I am. You need to sleep now, and I need rest also until the next session this evening. Ahmed entered at this point, happy to see AIS awake and in good spirits. Ahmed, great, a good recovery. Freya, Ahmed, do you have a spare room? I am really tired. Ahmed, sure, goddess. Come follow me, as the two walked out. Loki, okay, everyone, let's give AIS a chance to rest, making Bell sad. AIS, Bell, please stay with me. Bell, sure. AIS, causing many knowing looks. After the pair was allowed to sleep in the room, Loki went off to the Twilight Manor with Finn, Reveria, and Gareth. Lefia went to the guild with the twins to check on Filvis. At the Twilight Manor, Loki met in private with the Finn, Reveria, and Gareth. Finn, that was a miracle. Loki, what really happened? Loki, Bell's skill and Freya's charm were used together to pull AIS out of her situation. Loki, let me see. How did Freya put it? Oh yes, Bell's love skill was not enough to get through to Ari's deep dark secrets. That is when I came in with charm to force her to open up. When she did a little, the love went in and conquered her. The room was very quiet for a long time while that sank in before Finn broke the silence. Finn, Freya did one over you, didn't she? Loki, to be fair, she saved AIS. Remember, I was ready to return to heaven. Without her help, AIS may never be able to live a normal life. But to be honest, that is what we are fighting for now, worried Reveria. Loki, what do you mean by that? Loki, that means AIS is going to have to retire until further notice, making the room very sad and completely quiet for a long time. Gareth, so the condition is that bad? Loki, yes, it is not cured. They lowered the black flames a lot, but it can erupt again. The consequences could be catastrophic. Freya said her powers could grow exponentially with the hatred from her past. Reveria, what are we going to do? Loki, we are going to do exactly what Freya and Bell tell us. Gareth, helpless is not a good feeling. Finn, indeed. But we have to do what is best for AIS. Loki, I do not know how to tell AIS. That is why I said a mini-step at a time. We have to give her hope, but we need to buy time as they continue try to treat her. Finn, understood. We will do what is best for AIS. Reveria, we need to tell the twins and Lefia. Loki, the twins can handle the truth, but I am worried about Lefia. Finn, me too, but we need their help. At the guild, Lefia and the twins went to see Filvis. The interrogation was ongoing by Shakti, Ganesha, Esfi, and Hermes while her hands were binded. Humble pie. At the guild, Lefia and the twins went to see Filvis, who was being interrogated by Shakti, Ganesha, Esfi, and Hermes. They waited outside until it was done. Filvis seemed to handle herself well and did not break down. Afterwards, Esfi and Hermes came out and saw Lefia and the twins. Hermes, Thousand Elf, please tell Loki that we must meet soon. Our troubles are not over. Not at all. Lefia, yes sir. After Esfi and Hermes left, they went to the room that Filvis was held at with multiple guards outside. Lefia was allowed to go inside, as was Tiona and Tyon. Lefia, hi Filvis, how did that go? Filvis, as well as could be expected. They are really worried now. Tiona, why? Enio was defeated. Demi-spirits are killed. Filvis, the corrupted spirit is able to create more dual fetus, and there are more like me all what? Filvis Revis was the former captain of the Astraea Familia. I am not sure of the number, but several others from that Familia survived to become creatures also. That made everyone quiet, even Tiona. At Ai's hospital room, Freya, Bell, and AIS started the session. It went on for about an hour. At the end of the session, Bell wanted to talk. Bell looking really embarrassed. AIS, with what we are doing, I want to. Causing AIS to blush crimson red and faint. At the Twilight Manor, Loki, Finn, Reveria, and Gareth were just wrapping up their meeting. Finn, Loki, is there something you have not told us? Loki. Reveria, Loki. Loki, well there is one more thing. Loki, well I guess you should know. Freya said one more thing to me right before we rejoined everyone. Finn, Loki. Loki, well she said, you asked me how much fun I had. Well, the truth is that I had enough fun to last all eternity. I can return to heaven now and be satisfied. Finn, wow Reveria, Freya had fun with you also. Loki, well, she earned it, but yes I am her plaything now. Gareth, the trickster in the palm of the goddess of beauty. Loki, Gareth, do you have to rub salt in my wounds? Embarrassed Gareth, sorry. Loki, yes Freya is enjoying it, but she is really helping. So I cannot complain but suck it up and take it. Finn, never I thought I would see the day. Reveria, well, Loki, it is a very good thing you are doing for AIS. I am proud of you, Loki. Well, I am enjoying my share of humble pie. Finn, to be honest, Freya is actually having fun with all of us at this point. Reveria, yes, she has all of us having nightmares about what is going on inside that room. Gareth, well, humble pie it is, and it is delicious as long as AIS get better. At that point, someone knocked on the door. We may have a problem. At the Twilight Manor, Lefia, Tiona, and Tyon went to report the shocking news about the creatures to Loki and others. That of course gave everyone a massive headache. Loki, so there may be multiple Revis equivalents. And the corrupted spirit can create more dual fetus. Finn, it took Bell, AIS with her dark powers, and Reveria to destroy the Revis demi-spirit. Reveria, what I don't understand is why they don't just come up from the dungeon and put us out of our misery. Loki, maybe they are playing with the prey like a cat and mouse game. Finn, well, it depends on how many creatures they have. If it is a small number, then we can win. Loki, if it is a small number, then they should have used all their aces in the same battle. That makes me think they have more than a couple. Or a lot more than a couple. I think Astraea Familia had more than 10 second-class adventurers. Reveria, maybe the creatures are not yet as strong as Revis. We know they consume magic stones to gain power. There could be a limited supply of the highest quality ones. Finn, perhaps we need to get involved in the talks with Filvis. Loki, when is the next interrogation? Lefia, tomorrow at 9 in the morning. Loki, Finn, Reveria, Gareth, let's go. Lefia, do you want to attend? Lefia, yes I would. I definitely would. At Ari's hospital room, after AIS woke up, she agreed to Bell's request while being tomato red, making Freya completely speechless with a little blush. After some time passed, Freya had a lot of things to talk with Bell, and then gave him an update showing progress in his endurance from his use of love. Level 5 strength, 122 endurance, 366 agility, 134 dexterity, 115 magic, 650 skill, Argonaut, Ox Slayer, Love Magic, Firebolt Development Ability, Luck, Abnormal Resistance, Escape, Magic Resistance. A few hours later, Loki and her executives went to visit AIS. Bell and Freya were already in Ari's room. AIS, hi everyone, thanks for checking on me. Reveria, how is the princess feeling today? AIS, I feel like I am getting stronger. Finn, Bell, how are you? Bell, I am doing well, thanks. Finn, Loki then told Freya, AIS, and Bell about the creatures and the dual fetus continuing to be an issue. Afterward the discussion, Bell looking at the Loki executives, there is also something I would like to talk to you all about. Loki, yes. Bell, is there something we can do for you? With AIS looking down, a pale-looking Bell said something that caused Loki, Lefia, Reveria, and Finn to faint. Freya, oh my. Going on road trip to San Francisco, so today has 3 short chapters. May not be any updates for a few days. We shall see. The big question, at Ari's hospital room, following the bad news regarding more creatures and dual fetus, Bell had something vital to ask the Loki executives. While AIS was looking down tomato red, Bell bravely asked, I would like your permission to marry AIS after Loki, Lefia, Reveria, and Finn had time to recover from fainting. Bell continued, I am sorry to surprise you like that, but as you know, AIS and I have gotten a lot closer. It is not right if we are not married. I love her and she is my idol. She is the reason I work so hard so I can stand by her side. So I would like your permission to marry her. After complete silence for a while, Loki stuttering, AIS, is this what you want? AIS nodded her head while completely unable to look them in the eye. Loki in tears looking at Bell, very well. You have my blessing. Reveria then came forward to hug Bell despite her high elf status. Congratulations, Bell. You have my blessing also. After that, Bell got on one knee to make the official proposal. Tomato red Bell, AIS, I love you with all my heart. I would like to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to make you happy and grow old together. I will do my very best to take care of you and protect you. Will you marry me? Tomato red AIS, yes Bell, I would like that very much. After that, Tiona then started wildly jumping up and down screaming Argonaut and AIS are getting married, forcing Tyon to shut her up by force. Lefia was in tears but she hugged AIS to congratulate her. After a long hug between all the Loki girls, the Loki executives had a lot of questions. Loki Bell, so when do you want the wedding? Bell, well, we are going to wait for my 16th birthday. We want to enjoy a long engagement, and it would allow time for us to handle the creatures and other problems. Finn, alright Bell. Congrats, but don't let our adventures hold back your life with AIS. But I certainly understand why you want to wait for your 16th birthday. The girls then gave Bell a big girl hug, even Lefia. After the happy talk, Bell had one other question for the Loki executives. Bell, I have a difficult request. My goddess and I need to spend a lot of time with AIS. It would probably be best if AIS stays at the Folkvanger during this time. Taze instantly came out of the executives as the reality of the new union hit home. Even Finn and Gareth had watery eyes, but they soon steeled their resolve. Loki, we will do whatever is good for AIS. Freya, from now on, we will make 5 guest rooms available to you and your Familia. You can come and go as you please once we handle the logistics. Finn, goddess, that is very generous of you. We will definitely take you up on the offer. Reveria in tears, goddess Freya, we are in your debt. Loki, Freya, I will also make guest rooms available for you and your Familia at the Twilight Manor. There are plenty of rooms, so just let us know what you need. Freya continued, thank you Loki. Now we are going to celebrate their official engagement. The party will be in 10 days at the Folkvanger. Loki to Freya, I cannot believe it, but we are going to be in-laws, as the 2 goddesses commiserated on their losses. At that point, Tiona and Tyon grabbed Bell and made a demand. Alright Argonaut Kuin, you and AIS are now an official couple with permission from the goddesses. Now you need to fill us on the good stuff. Like, what is the deal with your love skill? What is going on in that room? Turning Bell and AIS into crimson red tomatoes. Had time for this update before going on the road trip to San Francisco, moving, at Ari's hospital room, as Loki to Freya commiserated on losing their favorites. Tiona and Tyon demanded that Bell come clean with love and what happened in the room. Bell, how can I say anything? My goddess privacy is sacred. Tyon pouted, that is a lame excuse. Tiona pouted, did you do that? Confused Bell, that. AIS wide-eyed, what is that? Tyon, I guess they did not do that. At that point, Lefia jumped in. Lefia, that is enough. Too much information, and started chanting Arc's Ray. As the 2 Amazons jumped on Lefia to stop the chant, Freya guided Bell from the room with a smile on her face. Afterwards, AIS simply pouted when the 2 Amazons made any inquiry. The next day at the guild, Loki, Reveria, Finn, Gareth, and Lefia were in the interrogation room at 9 in the morning. Hermes, Esfi, Shakti, and Ganesha were there again, though Ganesha was soon called away to attend to some matter. At that point, Fells came in to join the process. Hermes, look at who is here today. It is a full house. Loki, if you do not behave, you are going to be punished. Esfi, I agree. Hermes whined, I have been betrayed again. Finn, Filvis, so you became a creature when the corrupted spirit modified your body. Filvis, yes, the plant-based powers give me rapid regeneration. It is hard to kill me without destroying my magic stone. Reveria, so Revis is the former captain of the Astraea Familia. Filvis, Yes, Gareth, how many more creatures are you aware of? Philvis, I have seen several from a distance. I believe at least 3 and probably more, not including Revis. Finn, how powerful are they? Philvis, I believe they were weaker than me at that time. Maybe 1 to 2 equivalent levels lower. Loki, why were they weaker? The Astrea Familia had 9 level 4 and 3 level 3. They should be as strong or stronger than you. Philvis, I became a creature first, so I got the benefit of 1 year of magic stones. Then when they became creatures, Revis got the priority for magic crystals in their group since she was the strongest. There is a limit number of the most powerful magic crystals. Hermes, how many magic crystals they have to eat to get more powerful? Philvis, I was roughly equivalent of a level 7, so I gained about 4 levels worth of power from eating magic crystals. Eating crystals from Virga would not make much of a difference at that level. Even Valgang dragons. If they consume the crystals of a demi-spirit, then there would be a difference. Revis did that once, and so did I. Reveria, what power level are you now? Philvis, I am roughly a level 4 since Dionysus returned to heaven. Loki, what if you received another Falna? Philvis, I believe I would be back to level 7. Hermes, where is the corrupted spirit? Philvis, usually deeper than floor 65. Lefia, so you have been that deep. Philvis, I have been down to floor 66. Finn, how powerful is the corrupted spirit? Philvis, I have never seen it use its powers, but I believe it was a great spirit. So very powerful plant-based powers. Shakti, what does the corrupted spirit want? Philvis, she wants to return to the surface. She was injured in the ancient past and became half monster. She wants monsters to run free on the surface when she returns. Shakti, why? Philvis, I am not sure, but it has to do with how she was injured and what she was doing in the dungeon. Finn, what do you want to do now if given a choice? Philvis, I have not thought about it. The only person I know is Lefia. Reveria, why did you do all those things to hurt people? Philvis, I was following orders from Dionysus. He was the only one who cared about me after I became a creature. Loki, but Dionysus is now gone. Philvis, yes, now I have no goals or plans. Hermes, did you think what you did was wrong? Philvis, yes, I understand that. But I cared about Dionysus because he was the only one who cared about me and accepted me after I became a creature. Gareth, but you would have hurt Lefia and she cared you. Philvis, I was torn between Dionysus' orders and Lefia. I tried to trick her to think that I was killed so she would not try to help me. Lefia, but do you know what that did to me? Philvis, no. I was hoping that you would be very sad and unable to fight. I thought that Dionysus could succeed, so I was trying to protect you. Lefia, I was a human zombie barely alive and unable to move forward. I was mentally destroyed and it required something ridiculous to save me that will stay with me forever. I will never be the same, as those memories will haunt me forever and it would be impossible to share real love with anyone new. Philvis, I am sorry. Lefia, I tried to protect you as well as I could without betraying Dionysus. Loki, if you are allowed to leave this situation after punishment, what would you do? Philvis, I really do not know. I have no goals, no aspirations, no familia, no ideals, no dreams. I am like a walking dead person, which I am. I tried to kill myself but was unable to due to regeneration. Loki, what do you think of the corrupted spirit? Philvis, I hate her. She used me. She turned my life into this living hell. Asfi, what other types of monsters are below? Philvis, there are powerful dragons similar to the one Dionysus used for the demi-spirit. However, most are less powerful as those black ones are very, very rare. Hermes, anything else? Philvis, not that I am aware of. Revis went deeper than I did because I coordinated more Dionysus on the surface. When I split up, I am too weak for the deep-level monsters. Loki, so what do you want to do now? Philvis, well, I felt loyalty to Dionysus, but he is gone, so I do not have any plans. The only person I know now is Lefia. I know what I did is totally unacceptable, so I await whatever punishment you decide on. They soon adjourned for the day. Later that afternoon, it was time for Ai's release from the hospital. AIS and Bell went to the Twilight Manor to pick up her stuff. The Loki Familia members were there to see AIS with watery eyes, who had a special treat for Loki. At the Twilight Manor, when Bell and AIS went to pick up her stuff, AIS had a special treat for Loki. For the surprise, they went into Loki's chamber in private. AIS, Loki, I know I have punished you often, but I do care for you. Loki smiled. I like the sound of this. AIS, well, I cannot think of any gift to get you, but I will hug you for a long, long time tonight to tell you how much I love my goddess. Shocked Loki, OMG, bringing a blush to her unlikely cheeks. True to her words, AIS gave Loki a lap pillow and petted her in the hair. Loki thought, this is too good to be true. This is too good to be true. With the biggest grin ever. Seeing the closeness between the two, Bell left the room and went to one of the rooms that Loki made available to Freya members. After Bell left, AIS gave Loki a hug and held on tight as they closed their eyes. The next morning, Loki had to get up early for another interrogation session for Filvis. As Loki, Reveria, Finn, Gareth and Lefia headed out, Bell and AIS also left with her items for the Folkvanger. Finn Loki, you seem to be in such a good mood, blissful Loki I am. Reveria, what happened? Happy Loki, AIS showed me her appreciation last night. Hugged me all night. Jealous Lefia thought, I did not get anything. Reveria, no wonder you got that extra giddy up in your step. Loki, I can die happy now when I go back to heaven. Reveria, don't joke about such things. Loki, wonder what she will give me for her engagement party. Finn laughed as Reveria rolled her eyes. The entire time, Lefia was steamed jealously about the lack of attention from AIS. At the guild, Loki, Finn, Reveria, Gareth and Lefia arrived at the interrogation room. Hermes and Asfi were already there, as well as Shakti. There were additional familiars attending today, including Freya with Otter and Hephaestus and Tsubaki. Loki perfect, exactly the two I wanted to talk to, pulling Freya and Hephaestus into a private office for a talk. About half an hour later, the three goddesses returned to attend the interrogation. Freya, you were about level 7 in power before Dionysus returned to heaven. What power level are you roughly at now? Filvis level 4 Freya. And you would be at what level if you received a Falna? Filvis, I should be back to level 7. Freya Revis was the former captain of the Astraea Familia, and multiple former members have also turned into creatures. Filvis, I think there are at least 3 Freya, and you think they were less powerful than you before due to the amount of high-level magic crystals available. Filvis, yes. They seemed 1 to 2 levels below me before when I saw them. Freya, and magic crystals of typical monsters would barely make a difference. Even the new types of monsters like Virga. Filvis, yes Freya, and it took consuming the magic crystal of a demi-spirit to significantly improve your power level when you reached your most powerful point. Filvis, yes Freya, there are powerful dragons lower in the dungeon, but there are very, very few black ones. Filvis, yes Freya, what do you want to do now? Filvis, well, I do not know. I served Dionysus before, but he is gone. I have no plans besides waiting for whatever punishment you decide on. Freya, the only person you know now is Lefia. Filvis, yes, everyone in my former familia died. Afterwards the goddesses gathered again in private to discuss Loki's plan. At the Folkvanger, Bell and AIS arrived with her personal stuff. They settled in after her stuff were dropped off in her new room, which is next to Bell's room. But Bell had a surprise for AIS. After interrogating Filvis, the gods met to discuss what to do with Filvis. Loki, we can all tell, she is telling the truth. Freya, you want to give the creature a Falna. Loki, well, it may not even work. And she may be weaker than before. Hermes, I kind of like the idea. Adding a potential level 7 power to our side would be important. Especially important if there are multiple creatures still in the dungeon. Ganesha, I am Ganesha. Freya, I can go along with it if she passes the next interrogation. Loki, I will get Uranos and Hephaestus to agree before doing anything. Freya, let us meet at 2 in the afternoon at the guild. Can you bring Hephaestus? Loki, we have a deal. At the Folkvanger, Bell had a surprise for AIS, an engagement ring, causing AIS to blush and faint. After AIS woke up, she was in tears and really happy. AIS, Bell, I will be a burden to you. I may not be able to fight anymore. Bell, AIS, you helped me all this time. It is time for me to take care of you. The sweet talk made Miniaz roll around in ecstasy. They shared a teary kiss. That afternoon at the guild, all the gods gathered and approached Urano's chamber. As the guards moved to stop them, Freya smiled at the guards. Uranos, well, you could have made an appointment, after which they walked in. Loki, we presume you are aware of Filvis being a creature of level 7 powers, and that she lost half those power when Dionysus returned to heaven. Uranos, yes. So what do you want to do with her? Loki, we are able to confirm she is telling the truth, and I am interested in giving her a Falna. Uranos, if you can confirm her sincerity, I can support that. Freya, well, that was easy. Hephaestus, you sure she will not betray us again? Hermes, she was obeying her god before. Ganesha, I am Ganesha. Uranos, please take him out of my chambers. Loki, sorry for the headache. We appreciate your support. In Filvis interrogation room, Loki, Filvis, you said before you have no goals at this time. Filvis, I do not. Freya, what do you care about? Filvis, almost everything I cared about has been taken away from me. The only one remaining is Lefia. Loki, would you protect Lefia? Filvis, certainly. Freya, you hate the corrupted spirit. Filvis, yes, I hate her. Hermes, what do you think of Orario? Filvis, I do not have much feelings about Orario. Loki, what about the dungeon? Filvis, it is just the dungeon. Loki, if I give you the opportunity, would you lend us your strength and protect Lefia? Filvis, yes, but I lost a lot of my abilities. Loki, I can try to give that back to you if you accept my Falna. Filvis, you would do that after what happened. Loki, yes, but it may not work. Filvis, but I am an ugly creature. Loki, sure you are a creature but you are not ugly. And that is all fine with me. Filvis, I want to protect Lefia and I will do what I can. Loki, there is some risk. Filvis, that is fine. Loki looked at the other gods, and they gave her their approval. Loki then gave Filvis her Falna, which appeared to work. With the big development, everyone agreed to follow Loki back to the Twilight Manor. Loki, Filvis, we are going to try out your Falna. Are you ready? Filvis, yes, goddess. Loki then had Finn, Gareth, Beat, Tiona, and Tyon join the group outside. Each were going to get a chance to test Filvis' strength. Suddenly, there was a scream from inside the Twilight Manor. I took some time off. We'll continue this series, though I'm quite a bit busier than before. Loki and the other gods wanted to test Filvis's new abilities against first-class adventurers from the Loki Familia. As they were going to start, there was a scream from inside the Twilight Manor. Being the quickest, Beat and Finn both raced inside to find out what happened. Finn and Beat discovered a lot of hysterical Loki members when Ais and Bell came back to say her goodbyes. With all the screams and crying, people would think something worse happened. Beat, you idiot, scared us half to death. Anakitty, shut up. Beat. We have feelings unlike you. Beat. You think I want Ais to leave. I just don't freak out like you people. By then Tiona and Tyon caught up. Tiona looking mischievous. Beat, so you are going to miss Ais. Beat could not look straight at Tiona while answering. Of course I am. Tyon teased. Sounds like Beat is sad and jealous. Angry. Beat, shut up you idiots. Ais cut in. Beat, I will miss you too, giving him a small kiss on the cheek. That did it, as Beat was tomato red and completely speechless. Worst of all, his tail went from a regular calm state to standing straight up, which was noticed by both sisters. Tiona smirked. Beat, what is up with your tail? Tyon teased, I see something got you kind of aroused. Tiona teased, is the Wolvie blushing? Tyon looking very serious, yes I think so. So it is all true. After the tail's unusual state was pointed out, the self-conscious Beat kept thinking really hard to his tail to calm down. Beat was desperate to get the tail to behave normally. But no matter hard how he tried, he could not stop the offending appendage from misbehaving. Unfortunately, the tail continued to point straight into the sky. As the sisters teased more and more, Beat became more and more embarrassed. Finally, he could not take it anymore and ran for his life like he has never done before. Beat ran as fast as he could, even though the offending tail made running unnatural and uncomfortable. Seeing Beat in the unprecedented state, the two sisters chased after him for more entertainment. That left Bell and Ais with the remaining Loki members wondering what was going on. Well, the other Loki members actually understood, but they were certainly not going to explain what happened to Ais and Bell. With that over with, Bell and Ais continued their goodbyes and numerous hugs. Outside, the sisters chased the desperate wolf, who ran past Loki and many others waiting patiently outside. All the while, the tail stood very proud and tall, making the running even more difficult. Filvis looked on confused by the commotion, thinking there was an emergency, but Lefia assured her that this was business as usual at the Loki Familia. Loki, what happened inside? At that point, Finn also came outside. It is fine. Tiona and Tyon are simply entertaining themselves at Beat's expense. With the mystery scream solved, it was time to test out Filvis' new powers. While Tiona and Tyon were busy chasing Beat, Loki still had Finn and Gareth for the test. The first contestant was Finn. The beatdown was pretty severe. Filvis was faster and stronger, as well as having similar agility and quickness. After a thorough beating, Finn raised his hands and smiled. Loki, that was pretty ugly. Finn, yes, I don't want to have to fight her again. Gareth was next while Finn received some treatment and potions. Filvis was even stronger than Gareth and was much faster and more agile. After serving as a punching bag, Gareth was finally laid out by Filvis, who took pity on the large dwarf lying on the ground. As Gareth was being treated, Lefia, Loki and the other gods looked amazed. Loki, well, we should take a break, but then we should probably try some 2-on-1. Lefia, gosh, I don't ever remember seeing Finn and Gareth being beaten like this before. Loki, that was pretty rough, and both were spanked pretty badly. Freya, how many do the bad guys have? Hermes, we may have a problem as we only have one ourselves. Otter is level 7. Bell better continue to improve quickly. Bell should probably practice against Filvis, also Loki unfortunately. AIS has to retire also. By the time they finished talking, a werewolf returned carrying 2 badly beaten Amazon sisters. Thus, as the wolf and the sisters got some potions, Finn and Gareth ganged up on Filvis. More questions. While the werewolf and the sisters got some treatment and potions, Finn and Gareth ganged up on Filvis. 2 against 1, but the battle was pretty even. Loki, well, we need 2 level 6 to fight 1 creature evenly. Freya and a level 7 like Otter can probably take on a creature like Filvis also. And there is that Mino Xenos Hermes, so it seems the Fauna returned Filvis' power to the way it was. After that statement, the gods looked at each other, reading each other's mind. Curious Loki, well, Dionysus returned to heaven. The creatures should have no Fauna power now. Freya, unless there is another evil god somewhere powering them up. Hermes, even if there is no evil god on their side, if they use a dual fetus, then the odds change again. Loki, yes. It took Bell, Reveria, and Dark AIS using their ultimate attack to destroy the Revis monstrosity. And I believe Bell and AIS were level boosted by your secret weapon Heroheim. Freya, true, but these creatures know that they will lose their existence if they merged with a dual fetus. So they probably do not desire such an outcome. Freya continued, and Bell has leveled and his magic is halfway through level 5 already. Loki, but there better be no more Dark AIS. Hermes, well, it seems we need the hero to yet level up again and again and again. Freya, so if the creatures lack an evil god, then we have a chance against multiple creatures with dual fetuses. Freya continued, if they have an evil god, then we are still outgunned. Even if Bell becomes level 7, he can only take down 1 or at most 2-inch Loki. There could be 9 or so more of these creatures. Hermes, and these creatures can easily return to the surface appearing as another adventurer. Hermes, we need to check every adventurer that returns from the dungeon. We need to know what those Astraea members looked like. Loki, well, I will go find the former Astraea member who survived, Gale I believe. And it seems these creatures are lower level than Filvis, so they will be busy feeding on magic stones for quite some time. Hermes, Gale is a blonde elf who works as a waitress at the hostess. Loki, I will go find her. Freya, well, we need to get Bell more experience. Loki, if only we can cure AIS of her darkness. Freya, the other issue is if push comes to shove, do we think AIS would allow Bell to fight to the death without helping him? Loki, looking even more worried, no, there is no way she would allow that. Freya conceded, the other force multiplier is Heroheim. Hermes smiled, if she can level up, her level boosting can last longer, and maybe more people at the same time. At that point, it was time to switch who would fight with Filvis. This time it was the 2 sisters, but it was still pretty even as their speed and agility were more important than Gareth's strength. After some time, Bell and AIS walked by, and they too stayed to watch the sparring. Seeing Bell, Freya and Loki decided that they should have Bell also fight with Filvis. While Bell's magic and endurance stats have continued to improve, he has not had much sparring since leveling up. Bell had a good battle with Filvis, but she clearly had a significant advantage. In many ways, Bell gave Filvis the best battle, though Otter was not there. However, Filvis was stronger with even better endurance. Their speed was pretty similar though, as well as their agility. One advantage that Bell did not use was Argonaut, given how fast-paced the combat was. AIS watched intently and wanted to jump in. But she remembered her condition, so she had a sad look, which was not missed by Loki or Freya. After getting beat up pretty badly by Filvis, Bell thanked her for the sparring. Then it was time for Bell and Beat to go against Filvis after some potions for Bell. That combination had the most success. It seemed to be the best combination of speed and power, and they visibly had an advantage against Filvis. Soon after, Otter arrived, and everyone was going to be treated to some real entertainment. Bragging rights as Bell and Beat were finishing up with sparring with Filvis, Otter arrived. That made everyone excited, as this would be the main event for the bragging rights to Rio. The battle was really intense and very even, which surprised Loki. Every time someone appeared to be getting an advantage, the other quickly changed the tempo in an unexpected way. Loki, Freya, I thought Otter was level boosted when he fought Filvis in the Knossos. Freya smiled, yes, I believe so. Loki, but he is not level boosted now, so why is the battle so even? Freya smirked. Oh, I just gave him an update and he improved a lot. Prior to this situation, we did not bother to update Otter very often as it was unnecessary. Surprised Loki, is he level 8 now? Freya smiled, Loki, status is confidential, but we will inform the guild as we are required to when the time comes, frustrating the curious Loki. As they spoke, Otter and Filvis continued to fight evenly. After about 20 minutes, they decided to call it a draw as it was time for Freya and Otter to go back home along with Bell and AIS. Loki, well Freya, I will be utilizing your spare rooms soon. And before the engagement party. Freya, let me know, and I will have a special meal in your honor on your next visit. Happy Loki, well, one of my members is now even with Otter, so we share the bragging rights in Rio. Freya smiled, sure Loki. Oh, did I tell you what Bell's grandfather always taught Bell when he was a child? Curious Loki, no. Tell me, Freya whispered in Loki's ear. His grandfather said heroes always have a harem, though it was loud enough for the Loki executives to hear. That caused Loki to collapse while having a massive nosebleed. Freya winked at Loki while waving by. Crying Loki, I don't think I am going to ask about that love skill ever again. Finn chuckled. She killed you Loki in tears. She just took my heart away. Finn chuckled some more. It seems Freya is always a step ahead of us. Gareth laughed, or more. Mama is going to faint. Greedy Loki, and I get nothing. Maybe if I begged just a little. Horrified Lefia, stop. I am having horrible images play out in my mind. Sly Loki, but you were treated by love. Lefia covered her ears. I am not going to talk about it. See no evil. Hear no evil. Seeing Lefia defocused and eyes closed, Loki got a few really good squeezes in, before Lefia body-slammed her. After the silliness was over, Loki, Reveria and Finn went to the hostess to find Ryu. They wanted to learn more about her former Familia members who apparently are now creatures. It would probably be a very emotional discussion. At the Folkvanger, Bell, AIS, Freya and Otter returned, and they quickly went to attend to a number of matters. AIS settled into her room, while Bell met with Otter. Apparently there would be daily training sessions with Otter and Filvis. Harrowheim will also be taking part in the training as she would go through different combinations of boosting for the combatants. From 0 boosted, to 1 boosted, to 2 boosted to all 3 boosted, they will get as much experience as possible. At the same time, Freya started the party planning for the biggest engagement party in the history of the city. At the hostess, the Loki party arrived, but Ryu was not there at the moment. With the serious mood, Mia and SYR asked about the reason, and their worst nightmare was realized. Mia, I do not think she is going to take this well. SYR, poor Ryu will be devastated with this information. Loki, maybe you could help lessen the blow. Finn, unfortunately we need as much information as we can get. SYR, she may want to rescue them like what happened with Filvis. Mia, is that possible? Loki, it is possible, but I don't know who these creatures would have allegiance to at this point. Ryu walked into the hostess and noticed the strange mood of the group. The talk, at the hostess, while Loki and her party were talking Mia and SYR, Ryu walked into the hostess and noticed the group's strange mood. SYR. Mia also did not know what to say. SYR gave Ryu a hug, which surprised Ryu. Given the way everything appeared, Ryu realized something may be terribly wrong. Ryu asked apprehensively, is everything all right? SYR with tears, Ryu, I am afraid we have to talk, and it is bad news. Thinking that the Loki may be trying to arrest the Gale, Ryu looked directly at Loki. If you want to take me in, I am ready. Loki, we know who you are, but we don't care about that. You did great in my view back then. Puzzled Ryu, then what is going on? At that point, Mia took everyone upstairs to one of the rooms so they could have privacy. Having never seen Mia act this way before, Ryu realized this is really bad. Ryu, you people are really worrying me. Please tell me what is going on. Realizing she had to take the lead. SYR, Ryu, we have bad news about your old familiar. Worried Ryu, someone saw Astrea. Sullen Loki, not that I am aware of. SYR, Loki and the others discovered something horrible about what happened to your old familiar members. Ryu, but they all died years ago right in front of me. Sudden Ryu stopped talking. Her mind was starting to connect the dots about her dead comrades and the creatures. Remembering the missing bodies, Ryu suddenly went pale white from the horrible jolt to her system. Ryu, oh no. Loki went straight to the truth. Filvis, a creature who I just gave a fauna to, has told me that Revis the creature was formerly the captain of the Astrea Familia. Apparently her body was modified by the corrupted spirit. We are very, very sorry. Tears came streaming out of Ryu's eyes. Before Loki could say any more, Ryu fainted. Mystery, in a room above the hostess. After Ryu realized some of the implications of Revis and her Familia, she cried and fainted. Fortunately, they were already in a room with a bed. So SYR watched over Ryu while she was unconscious. About 10 minutes later, Ryu woke up. She was still pale white with dreadful thoughts running through her mind. SYR, Ryu, I am so sorry. Ryu, this is the most incredibly horrible news. I need to talk to them. SYR, while they are downstairs. They are waiting for you to recover. SYR, wait here. I will go get them. Syr went downstairs to find Loki, Reveria, and Finn, who were talking to Mia. Syr, Ryu is up and wants to talk to you. She is understandably horrified. Reveria, we will be sensitive to her feelings, but there are some things we really need to find out, so everyone went back upstairs. Loki, Reveria, perhaps you should take the lead. Ryu, sorry I fainted on you. Reveria looking sympathetic, that is certainly understandable. We are sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And this comment had a big effect coming from a high elf. Ryu, thank you, Reveria-sama. I am sure you have questions for me, and I would also like to understand more about the situation. Reveria, well, why don't you ask your questions first? Ryu, so I heard that Revis parasiticized herself and was destroyed. Reveria, yes, I was there when it happened. She became this huge green demi-spirit monster. It took all the strength from AIS, Bell, and myself. My understanding is that it was much like what Basa did to himself, except she was much stronger to start with. Ryu, did Revis say anything about Estrella of anything about my Familia? Reveria, no, Revis did not. In fact, in previous encounters, Revis did not seem to have any recollection about us in the Loki Familia. She did not know who we were. Ryu, we definitely did know who the Loki Familia were. That seems like Revis did not remember anything about the surface world. With Reveria unsure, Finn, that is what it seems to me. Ryu, are there any signs of anyone else from my Familia? Finn, yes and no. We did not see any ourselves. However, Filvis, who has joined our Familia even though as a creature, said that she saw a few more beyond Revis. We are not sure who, but you may be able to figure that out if you talk to Filvis. Ryu, I would like the opportunity to do that. Finn, we are obviously very interested in the intent and the power of the creatures. This is a secret, but Filvis is fighting roughly with the power of a level 7. Obviously, if there are 10 level 7 creatures out there, that would be an enormous threat to Orario. That is especially the case if they can simply walk through the dungeon entrance without causing a stir. Ryu nodded. I understand why this is important. I will help if I can. Loki, thank you. It would be extremely helpful to find out what power level these creatures are at currently. If they do not have any memory, they may have died. Then their foulness and their souls would have passed on. Ryu, if their souls passed on, then only their bodies are being violated. That is horrible, but much less horrible than if their souls are being controlled. Loki, yes, I understand your concern. If they died, that would mean the connection with Estrella would have disconnected. That means Estrella would know Reveria. Yes, we should try to find Estrella and ask her. Finn, Revis was also fighting like a level 7. Given what Filvis said, it is likely she had a fauna from Estrella or Dionysus or some other evil god. The other creatures are likely to be in the same situation. Ryu, I cannot believe Estia would not have told me if she still had a connection with them. We believe they all died even though I could not find their bodies. Loki, that would seem to be true, especially with the Estrella. I know, Ryu, but we can try to confirm that. I will also need to find Estrella. But I will first go talk to Filvis to see what we can figure out together. Loki, was your status ever locked? Ryu, I don't know. Estrella never mentioned it. Reveria, Ryu, would you mind if one of us checked that? We understand that is highly confidential, but we will keep it confidential. Ryu, that is fine. You can all see it at that point. Everyone but Finn stayed in the room to check Ryu's status. Loki, well, your status is not currently locked. Could Estrella have unlocked it before she left? Ryu, it is possible, but I do not know. Reveria bowed. Ryu, what you are doing is very difficult. Thank you for being so strong. Ryu bowed. Please, Reveria-sama. But your words really means a lot to me coming from you. Thus Syr and Ryu followed the Loki members to the Twilight Manor to talk to Filvis. Earlier at the Twilight Manor at a dining table, Filvis, Lefia, I am sorry you were hurt. I just tried to do what was the safest way for you. Lefia in tears. You have no idea what that did to me. I was so devastated I could not talk or eat. I could not break myself out of my own shell. It took something extreme to free me from my state. Filvis, what happened to get you out of the state? Lefia. Well, Bell had to do something extreme to me. Curious. Filvis, did he have some spell? Lefia, much worse. He had to use his skill. Filvis, so he healed you with a rare skill. Embarrassed. Lefia, it is sure rare. He had to do a lot more than healing. I can never get married now. Confused. Filvis, how could that be? Sad. Lefia. He did things. Then he did more things. Then I screamed. Then he did more things. Then I cried. Then he did even more things. Then we did things. See what I mean? Filvis, that sounds bad, but I still have no idea what happened. Lefia, all I can say is that I can never get married anymore after this. Filvis thought about it for a while, And then the light bulb went on in her head. Filvis, you mean you cannot get married to anyone except to Bell? Shocked Lefia. I can never marry Bell. I hate him. I mean he is my rival and he won. I mean he took AIS away. I mean he is marrying AIS. So how can I possibly marry him? Filvis, that does sound difficult since he is marrying AIS, but it sounds like you have some feelings for him. Frustrated Lefia. I only hate him. Don't you understand? Curious Filvis, I don't know about hate, but it sounds intense. Frustrated Lefia, don't make it out to be something it is not. It is really frustrating. Filvis, well, I will always be by your side if you do not mind. Lefia cries and hugs Filvis. Filvis, but Lefia, I am a creature. Lefia did not know what to say but just kept crying that everything sucks. It was a good cry. Bell broke her out of her situation, but the only way for her to feel better is to reconcile with Filvis. At that point, Loki, Reveria, Finn, Syr, and Ryu arrived. This would be all for today. Next part coming soon, so please like, share, and subscribe to get informed as soon as the next part drops.